Part 35. Fringe Artists in the Entertainment Industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 353. Chapter 342-341. The Frenzy of Public Opinion, London at Night. In the chaotic scene, curses mixed with the sound of police sirens. Chen Lian was still confronting the police at this time. His warning just now had some effect, but it obviously didn't work in such an environment. The current scene is almost reaching turmoil, and everyone's sanity has dropped a lot. The students protected by Chen Lian behind them were shouting and protesting slogans. "You are violently enforcing the law. Protest. A robber will always be a robber. Return our artifacts." The protests behind Chen Lian grew louder and louder, and the scene suddenly became tense. Several policemen stepped forward with electric batons in hand, and there was a faint tendency to surround Chen Lian. When Chen Lian saw that something was wrong, he immediately shouted to the police, "I am here to hold an art exhibition on behalf of China. If you attack me, it will be a diplomatic incident. Think carefully." Chen Lian's words calmed them down a bit, but the policeman who had just been kicked out by Chen Lian had already gotten up and rushed forward with a loud cry. "Die! Damn yellow pig! He's a dog," Chen Lian cursed angrily, feeling that today was really going to end. Sure enough, under the leadership of the impulsive police officer, his colleagues rushed forward. Chen Lian didn't care so much and directly called the students behind him to leave quickly, and then went up to them alone. If he is caught, he can be released. If these students are caught, they will definitely be in trouble if they want to come out safe and sound. If someone directly attacks the police or resists law enforcement, these students will not be able to get out. Seeing the policeman charging towards him with his fists raised, Chen Lian turned sideways to avoid his attack, kicked out his right foot at the same time, and hit his knees accurately, causing the policeman to kneel on the ground and jump out. The other police officers shouted at Chen Lian to give up resistance and waved their electric batons and batons. How could Chen Lian dare to give up resistance at this time? If he gave up, a beating would definitely be unavoidable. He didn't want to be beaten violently. Surrounded by 4 or 5 policemen, Chen Lian kept wandering around to avoid the constant swings of batons. These policemen were different from street gangsters in that they all had a certain fighting foundation. What's more, these people were wearing body armor and could hit hard with one punch. It's hard to get a single shot to work. Chen Lian was not yet confident that he could knock them down with 3 punches and 2 kicks, but his kung fu was also practiced on the streets of the capital, and he was still able to face such a siege. The cunning and viciousness of Baguazhang was fully unleashed at this time. Joints and vital points were all targets of Chen Lian's attack. Chen Lian bent down to avoid a baton that hit his head, and used his right hand to hit the policeman's chin accurately. With a bang, the policeman fell backwards, fell heavily to the ground and passed out without moving. The young policeman was in good health and fell asleep. A few policemen couldn't help but their eyelids twitched when they saw this scene, but they still had any calmness in their hearts and rushed towards Chen Lian. Reporters and TV stations not far away had already focused their cameras here when they saw Chen Lian appear. At first, they were surprised to see Chen Lian knocking down a policeman twice. Now that I saw that Chen Lian was still able to fight back when surrounded by several police officers, an idea suddenly came to his mind. Chinese Kung Fu. Chinese people are indeed good at Kung Fu, otherwise how can you explain how many policemen an artist can beat up? Look down on the British police. Chen Lian didn't have the time to worry about that much now. There were still several of them in too. He used his hands and feet at a flexible pace, either hitting joints or attacking key acupuncture points. Chen Lian aimed at the gap and lowered the lower chassis, and kicked a policeman's inner thigh directly with his toes. The severe pain instantly made the policeman's legs weaken and he knelt on the ground. While he was kneeling on the ground, Chen Lian took a step forward and hit him directly in the face with an elbow. Another good baby fell down and fell asleep. Several international students nearby were fascinated by the sight and wanted to roll up their sleeves and have a fight. A male student with long hair yelled and wanted to rush over. As soon as he took a step forward, he stepped on the baton and fell to the ground. Chen Lian saw the scene out of the corner of his eye, and felt no fluctuation in his heart. He even took the time to slash a policeman's wrist with his palms, knocking the baton from his hand. Just when Chen Lian was about to finish off his attack and send him off to sleep, a stern warning suddenly came from behind him. "Don't move. If you move again, I'll shoot." The police officer who had previously agreed to let Chen Lian take the students away couldn't stand it any longer, so he pulled out a gun and pointed it at Chen Lian. Chen Lian stepped back and raised his hands when he felt the danger, but the police officers did not move and hit him with a stick. Chen Lian had no time to hide, so he could only turn his head quickly, but he was still hit on the eyebrow bone, and blood flowed down instantly. The policeman who hit Chen Lian wanted to hit him again, but the police officer quickly stopped him. "Sean! Stop!" The police officer's scolding was obviously too late. The policeman named Sean hit Chen Lian hard on the shoulder with his baton. Chen Lian groaned in pain. From the corner of his eye, he saw that the police officer still had a gun in his hand, so he had to resist the urge to kick the policeman to death. The police officer quickly came over, warned Chen Lian not to move, and then took out handcuffs and put them on him. Chen Lian did not resist, and allowed his hands to be handcuffed. He looked at the police officer and said, "Don't arrest those students, they didn't do anything, otherwise I will protest through the embassy." The police officer glanced at him and did not answer him. He waved his hand and asked the remaining police officers to subdue the protesting students. Chen Lian squinted at this scene, then looked around and found that most of the protesters had been arrested. Jifa and Bo Qing, who received the news at this time, hurried over and saw the blood streaming from Chen Lian's forehead and half of his face covered in blood. They were almost furious. Jifa shouted directly to the policeman who was escorting Chen Lian, "Let him go." The policeman glanced at Jifa and said coldly, "He attacked the police and resisted law enforcement. He should be arrested in accordance with the law. He is injured and must go to the hospital, otherwise I will sue you." "Then look at my colleagues." "I do not care." The policeman glanced at Jifa, ignored her and escorted Chen Lian to the car. After a while, the police car was filled with protesters. The Chinese students looked at Chen Lian, still indignant. But they were very concerned about Chen Lian's injury. Chen Lian moved his shoulder. It was very painful but not like a fracture. He breathed a sigh of relief and smiled to reassure them that they didn't have to worry. Several international students looked at Chen Lian's wounds and looked for paper or handkerchiefs on their bodies to briefly bandage Chen Lian. Several reporters who followed us stood behind the carriage and quickly took photos while the door was still open. Arresting a few ordinary protesters will indeed attract attention, but arresting a globally famous artist will attract more attention. In particular, Chen Lian, whose face was covered with blood, still smiled gently to comfort the students. The huge contrast made the reporters tremble. "This picture is great. Pictures are great material for telling stories." Outside the police car, Jifa was still communicating with the police, but to no avail. He immediately gave up communicating with them, turned around and started to contact the lawyer, and told Bai Qing to contact the embassy. Chen Lian was captured. This kind of thing can be big or small. Now if Chen Lian wants to come out safely, he must make the matter bigger and put pressure on the British side. After Jifa contacted the lawyer, he looked at the reporters, raised his eyebrows and walked towards them. That night, media around the world reported the police crackdown on protesting international students in front of the British Museum. A video of Chen Lian negotiating with several police officers to protect the students, leading to a fight with no result, and finally being arrested and threatened by the police with a gun, also appeared on TV, instantly attracting great attention. Many people are angry, but a few students protest against the police using force. Many students were pushed to the ground as if they were criminals, and some were seriously injured. An internationally renowned artist negotiated with the police and was attacked by the police. After failing to stop him, he had no choice but to fight back in order to protect the students. Such a thing immediately aroused international public discussion, and many media took the initiative to popularize Chen Lian's works and said that he was an anti-war artist. Such a person should not be treated like this. A celebrity with social status and wealth is treated like this. You can imagine what kind of treatment those students will receive in the police station. For a time, more people protested, driven by thoughtful people, and more countries that had experienced looting of cultural relics came forward to condemn the protests and begged Britain to release those tourists and students from their countries. These protesting countries have all experienced cultural relics being stolen and robbed, and their people are also very excited at this time, and they have spoken out at home to ask the government to protest. These countries have also been in contact with each other. They all have good political vision. They all feel that this matter is a very good opportunity. They take the opportunity to put pressure on Britain and maybe get back their own cultural relics. Even if we can't get it back, we still need to let the international community see clearly what this so-called Museum of the World really is. At the same time, the name Chen Lian became more and more popular. An anti-war artist began to take action in order to protect students. You can imagine how brutal those police officers were. Protest. Must protest. Chen Lian and those protesters must be released immediately and unconditionally. As for the matter of Chen Lian knocking down several policemen, everyone subconsciously ignored it. To promote public opinion, you naturally have to choose what is beneficial to you. Chen Lian is the victim, so we can't mention the fact that he knocked down a police officer within a few centimeters, and constantly emphasize the fact that Chen Lian was injured when he was arrested. In particular, the image of Chen Lian sitting in a police car with blood on his head to comfort the students has been widely circulated. Doesn't Great Britain claim to be a gentleman and aristocrat? How can you be so shameless? A group of students just called for the return of their country's cultural relics. Why should they be suppressed by force? Driven by everyone's tacit understanding, protests turned into appeals, police dispersal turned into violent suppression, and everything began to change. The situation in London has become more complicated at this time. In the beginning, it was just a protest about cultural relics in the British Museum. Now some special groups have taken the opportunity to make trouble. Large-scale marches and protests were organized spontaneously or driven by others that night. Immigrants and various rights organizations took to the streets one after another. In the embassy, Bai Qing was communicating with the leaders and asked the police to release Chen Lian immediately. The leaders of the embassy will naturally not sit idly by and have begun to contact various embassies to lodge protests and representations with the British side. It was just early in the morning in China, and CCTV's morning news immediately broadcast the incident, and various newspapers also published relevant reports. For a time, domestic public opinion and public anger were also aroused. At this time, Lin Fangmu in the propaganda department felt like his head was spinning. He was 100% sure that the person who drew the picture was also Chen Lian. Chen Lian must have done these things. Even if other forces later intervene to add fuel to the fire, the initiator must be Chen Lian. I really don't know if Chen Lian is taking advantage of others or being taken advantage of. The situation is a bit complicated now. Lin Fangmu's side, but still took his coat and prepared to go out to find someone to rescue Chen Lian. Many people were worried about Chen Lian at this time, especially after seeing the scene of Chen Lian being injured and being pointed at by the police with a gun. His friends at home and abroad couldn't help but worry about whether Chen Lian would be treated unfairly after being arrested. Treatment. It's just that some people have no choice but to worry blindly, while some people have already started to speak out through their own channels. Ji Fa, who was in London, was currently negotiating with the police with his lawyer and some celebrity friends in London, asking them to release Chen Lian immediately. The people at the police station directly rejected the request for release. The person in charge of the police station said seriously, "It is impossible to release him now." He blatantly attacked the police and resisted law enforcement. "We must not let him go just like this." Some police officers nearby also spoke out. Their colleagues and friends are still in the hospital. They were all beaten by Chen Lian. How could someone who openly provoked the police be released at will? The lawyer brought by Jifa pushed up his glasses and said, "We ask for bail. There is video evidence that the police violated the rules and assaulted my client. He only fought back to protect himself. We will accuse you of violating the rules and assaulting my client. Reject bail. We will wait until the investigation is clear. We will also charge him with assaulting the police." After hearing this, Jifa immediately wanted to speak but was stopped by the lawyer. After asking her to calm down, she turned to the police and said, "I request to see my client immediately. You can't refuse. If my client is abused at the police station, I will sue you immediately." After the lawyer finished speaking, he did not look at the policeman. He turned to Jifa and said, "It will be difficult for them to release him tonight. I will go see Mr. Chen first. Don't worry, they won't dare to violate the rules with me here." Jifa suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "Can you bring the doctor in? I'm worried about his injury." "We have doctors," the policeman in the narrator interjects. The lawyer patted Jifa on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry, I'll go take a look first." Chen Lian was chatting with the protesters who were locked up with him at this time. The wound on his brow was no longer bleeding, but his face was still full of blood, and his clothes were also full of blood. He looked miserable. However, Chen Lian still chatted with those people with a smile on his face, saying that they did a good job, saying that the British Museum was shameless, and that he would definitely stand with them. Chen Lian originally wanted to hide behind the scenes, but now that he is involved, he will go with the flow and make the matter a bigger deal. Otherwise, if he goes out, the other people who were arrested will not have so many people paying attention. The benefits of being a public figure are now reflected. Soon the police came and asked Chen Lian to come out and said that his lawyer was here. After hearing this, other people in the holding room showed a look of expectation on their faces, but some were worried that Chen Lian would go out directly, leaving them alone here. Chen Lian looked at them and said, "I said I would stand with you. When I come back, I will take you out together." After saying that, Chen Lian went out, and everyone in the detention room looked at his back with a hint of admiration. In an interrogation room, Chen Lian met the lawyer, and there was an accompanying doctor who wanted to treat Chen Lian's wounds, but Chen Lian refused. Joke. It just had to be this miserable, otherwise how could it set off the cruelty of those people? At Chen Lian's request, the doctor went out, leaving only Chen Lian and the lawyer in the room. More than 20 minutes later, the lawyer came out, came to Jifa, whispered a few words to her, and left the police station. Chen Lian also returned to the detention room at this time and started chatting with those people again, as if he was on vacation instead of being arrested. Although there is nothing going on inside the police station, there is already a lot of noise outside. There are many more people on the streets of London tonight, and all police officers in London have cancelled their vacation tonight. London is really going to become Gotham. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 354. Chapter 343-342. Chaos. The streets of London were extremely noisy late at night. Many people gathered around the police station to protest. There were many college students in the crowd, all of whom were classmates of international students. They saw on the news that their classmates were knocked to the ground by the police, and they saw them being pinned to the ground like lambs, while the police who were supposed to protect them were sitting on top of them. Such a scene is infuriating. Not only the relatives and friends of those detained, but also many people who cannot understand the actions of the police also participated in the protest at night. Free everyone. Catch us too if you can. If they are arrested, the London police station may be full tonight, and the chief's office will be full. Chen Lian was listening to the movements outside in the detention room, and the corners of his mouth covered with blood couldn't help but curl up. Coercing the people and leading multiple political forces to stir up public opinion was Chen Lian's goal from the beginning, but he did not expect that things would develop so quickly. Some people react too quickly. I have to say that people involved in politics are really sensitive and can seize opportunities very well. If this matter had calmed down for one night, it might have given Daying time to guide public opinion, and the outcome of the matter might not have been what it is now. We are arresting people at noon, and public opinion is rapidly fermenting in the afternoon. There is such a big movement in the evening, and large-scale protests and marches have taken place. The people in the detention room were very excited, feeling as if they had suddenly found an organization. The panic in their hearts dissipated a lot, and they began to shout at the police station to let them out. Chen Lian leaned against the wall and ignored them. Young people need to vent in this way to embolden themselves, otherwise they will be scared to death if they are locked up here. In the beginning, they went to march and protest out of impulse and enthusiasm. When they were arrested, they began to feel afraid and retreat. This is human nature, and not everyone can be firm in themselves. Just like those people outside, Chen Lian can guarantee that 50% of the people inside were moved by public opinion, 20% were arranged by someone, and 15% were those who came to join in the fun. The rest really know what they are doing. As for Chen Lian, it is no longer important. He has become an excuse for everyone to make trouble. Therefore, it is unclear whether Chen Lian coerced those forces or was used by others, but one thing is certain, everyone's goal is the same. It's just that no one knows that the most mysterious artist is Chen Lian. After tonight, the most influential artist in the world may have another name added to his name. But the number of people will not change, it will still be 100 people. Many people in the art circle find it difficult to imagine that Chen Lian had just become the most influential artist in the world, and then turned around and was arrested. Public opinion was abuzz, but many people suddenly noticed one thing. This incident was caused by a mysterious artist from beginning to end. They suddenly discovered that the influence and destructive power of artists can be so great. Although there are other reasons behind this incident, it is really impossible to ignore the impact it had at the beginning. Movies and television are also very influential, but they have restrictions on dissemination and will be affected. However, street art like this cannot be controlled. Once there is a leader-level figure, it is easy for everyone to follow. Graffiti is street art, with extremely low creation costs and easy entry. Graffiti art itself is already very popular in Europe and the United States, but it is not popular on the stage and feels more like the nonsense of small gangsters. But after Chen Lian's efforts, graffiti art really came into everyone's sight and became the artist's weapon and gun. Graffiti works do not need to be considered for auction, do not need to be considered for exhibitions, and do not need to be considered for collection in art museums. They just need to be painted on the streets. It is no longer the casual graffiti of young people letting themselves go, but can also be full of art and appeal. In the past, many cultures became popular in this way. The formation and influence of pop, hippie, punk, rock, and other cultures are obvious to all. In the dark streets, a thin and small figure was walking through the streets and alleys carrying a huge backpack. Several bottles of paint were used up in his hands. The moment Bo Qing turned around, she bumped into a man who was also disguised with a hat. This man also had a paint bottle for graffiti in his hand. Both of them were stunned for a moment, but the man quickly reacted. He glanced at the graffiti that Bai Qing had just written on the wall, and immediately said excitedly, "Are you the mysterious artist?" Bai Qing quickly shook her head and wanted to leave, but the man still followed her and said excitedly behind her, "I like your works very much. I have read every graffiti of yours and it inspired me a lot. I came out to draw just like you, so you don't have to worry. Do you have your own code name?" I gave myself a code name, Banksy. What do you think? If the person coming out tonight is Chen Lian, he will definitely stop and chat with this man. But the person coming out tonight is Bai Qing. She doesn't want to say anything more to this man named Banksy. Who knows who he is? Good guy or bad guy? Seeing that Bai Qing didn't answer him, Banksy knew that she was very wary. He suddenly stopped with some pity and shouted behind her, "Come on, I'm going to graffiti my own work, but don't worry, I will do it. Keep the name Banksy, no one will impersonate you." After saying that, Banksy also disappeared into the darkness. Only then did Bo Ching stop and look back, and muttered, "Code name Banksy, I will remember you." After Bai Qing finished speaking, she quickly disappeared into the darkness. She appeared tonight instead of Chen Lian just to make the matter bigger and to disguise the signs that the mysterious artist was still active. Otherwise, the mysterious artist disappeared just after Chen Lian was arrested, which would arouse the suspicion of many people. But the appearance of Banksy made Bai Qing feel that this mysterious artist would become an organization instead of an individual person. Now the media has referred to this mysterious artist as anonymous, and there are various speculations as to whether this anonymous is an artist or an art organization. Chen Lian slept soundly, but some people were worried to death. Lu Tao's cell phone was about to explode, and the same was true for Ji Fa. All Chen Lian's friends were calling to care about how Chen Lian was doing. Lu Tao was panicking to death now. He was just going on a business trip with his boss for a quick trip, but why did he end up like this? Li Dabai was the first to call Lu Tao and wanted to ask Lu Tao about the specific situation, but Lu Tao couldn't understand it after talking for a long time. She really didn't know how things suddenly turned out like this. Moreover, Jifa and Bo Qing only asked her to take the team back to the hotel and not run around, but they didn't explain anything to her. Li Dabai was so angry at Lu Tao's questions that he shouted directly into the phone, "How did you become an assistant? You don't have to do it anymore." After yelling, Li Dabai hung up the phone and called Jifa directly, but Jifa couldn't get through. She called Bo Qing again and still couldn't get through. At this moment, Li Dabai was really panicked. He didn't know what to do for a while. Soon, everyone who also called Lu Tao and couldn't figure out the reason called Li Dabai. Gong Li and Chen Miran do not have the contact information of Jifa and Bai Qing. They are not in the same circle. Now they can only contact them through Li Dabai to learn about Chen Lian's situation. But Li Dabai couldn't contact them either. Gong Li and Chen Miran immediately panicked and wanted to book tickets to London immediately. How can it be so easy to go to London just for a short while? Visas, flight tickets, etc. are not things that can be done immediately. If you want to go to London, you can only wait until tomorrow. In desperation, Gong Li and Chen Miran directly approached Li Dabai and asked her to continue contacting Jifa and Bai Qing. Those who can contact Jifa and Bo Qing are relatively good. Chen Lian has some lovers who cannot contact them. They are all worried at home like ants on a hot pot, so they can only ask their friends abroad to help inquire. Lu Xiaoli was sitting at home watching the news and was worried. She subconsciously touched her belly and hesitated for a while before making a call to her ex-husband. My ex-husband was quite happy at first when he received Lu Xiaoli's call, but he was so angry when he heard that Lu Xiaoli was asking about Chen Lian that he almost threw the phone away. A couple of dogs and men. Murder and heart-wrenching. Lu Xiaoli finally hung up the phone helplessly, and called her sister in the United States to ask her to help pay attention. Domestic news was lagging behind, and she wanted to know the specific situation as soon as possible. Lu Xiaoli was so angry at this time. What did Chen Lian's assistant do for a living? Why didn't he know anything? He didn't even know the phone numbers of Jifa and Bai Qing, so he still had the nerve to go on a business trip with Chen Lian. Lu Xiaoli thought for a while and couldn't sit still. She called Li Dabai directly and then set off to find Li Dabai to ask about the situation. After Li Dabai hung up the phone, he rubbed his eyebrows and looked at Gong Li and said, "Sister, that Lu Xiaoli is coming over." Lu Xiaoli, Chen Myron frowned when she heard an unfamiliar name and asked, "Who is she?" After asking, Chen Myron realized who it could be, Chen Lian's lover. Chen Myron has no time to care about these things now, her mind is full of the image of Chen Lian with blood on his face. From the time she met Chen Lian until now, she has never seen Chen Lian in such a mess. Even when Chen Lian was at his poorest, he was never in such a miserable state. He always had a free and unrestrained smile, as if he looked down on the whole world. Who has seen Chen Lian's embarrassed look? It seems that no one who knows him has ever seen him like this. No matter how big your heart is, you can't help but worry. It's just that it's useless for these women to get together. They almost started to quarrel without saying a few words. It was Gong Li who sat there and slapped the table to shut them up, so they all shut up silently. Li Dabai looked at the angry Gong Li and couldn't help but give a thumbs up in his heart. The queen is just different, so domineering. The 7 or 8 women in the capital were sitting together and could do nothing but worry. Soon, several women received calls one after another. They were all reporters who wanted to interview them. Originally, they all wanted to refuse, but it was useless to conduct an interview at this time. Who would be in the mood to hype it up? However, Gong Li agreed wholeheartedly. At this time, their only advantage was their influence as public figures. So these women all went to be interviewed by the media. Internationally famous ones like Gong Li also contacted their journalist friends abroad, firstly to help inquire about Chen Lian, and secondly, in the hope of using foreign media to express support. Chen Lian. Li Dabai glanced at Lu Xiaoli, who was a little embarrassed, patted her hand and said, "Sister Xiaoli, you should go home first. It is not safe for Sissy to be alone at home. I will notify you as soon as possible if anything happens." After Lu Xiaoli left, Li Dabai also started to sway people and speak out to the media. She is now very skilled at this kind of thing. Domestic public opinion can only be fermented at home to influence people at home, but the key to the public opinion war is abroad. At this time, Jifa and Bai Qing, who had just returned, began to contact artists or celebrities they were familiar with to help speak out. No matter how many people agree, as long as someone agrees to help speak out, it is a good thing. The coercion of public opinion will accumulate little by little. There was already a slight light shining on the sky in London in the early morning. The protest march lasted for a long time that night, and there was a lot of excitement outside the police station for several hours. However, Chen Lian slept soundly in the holding cell and was not affected by the sounds at all. Many police officers at the police station were extremely nervous as they watched the demonstrators sitting quietly at the police station. They did not dare to go back to rest even after staying up all night, for fear that the same thing would happen again during the day. And where these demonstrators cannot see, many people in the British government are discussing what to do about this matter. It was originally just a small matter, but who would have thought that it would lead to the current situation? Governments of various countries are constantly exerting pressure, and many human rights organizations and public figures are collectively speaking out against their actions. A result must be given now, otherwise this will become more and more troublesome until there is no way to end it. There must be an organization and premeditation behind that anonymous person, otherwise it wouldn't have developed into what it is now in just a few days. What's the use of talking about this now? The key is how to solve this matter. Could that Chen Lian be the mastermind? Why did he suddenly get involved? If he hadn't been arrested, he wouldn't have attracted such attention. He originally wanted to leave with the Chinese students, but a policeman didn't let him go and took action against him. It looks like the police officer is more like a promoter, wanting to make things bigger. Check these two people, we must find out who is behind this. A group of gentlemen in suits and ties sat together and discussed for a long time. From time to time, people outside came in to report on the situation outside. For example, hundreds of graffiti suddenly appeared in London last night. For example, some people vandalized, smashed, and looted during the demonstrations. For example, several countries protested. For example, several embassies requested meetings and negotiations. For example, there were celebrities or celebrities speak out and demand the immediate release of innocent people in custody. In just one night, things became more and more out of control. More and more people came forward, and more people took advantage of the opportunity to cause trouble. This matter must come to an end, otherwise things will become uncontrollable if it continues to ferment. These gentlemen held an emergency meeting to discuss how to resolve this matter. They had to take a stand and negotiate with the countries that were protesting. These countries were taking the opportunity to make various demands. As for letting people go, they wish they wouldn't let go now. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizuda Xiaomao. Chapter 355. Chapter 344-343. A world in which only one person is injured is achieved. In the cold detention room, Chen Lian was holding dry bread to replenish his strength. He had been locked up for more than 10 hours and finally had a bite to eat. Although it's just hard bread, it's not bad. At least there's no JC coming to torture or extort confessions. At this time, the outside world was already noisy. In the morning, there were hundreds of graffiti all over London. You can see graffiti on every street. It seemed that London turned into a city of graffiti overnight. The extra graffiti at night is nothing. Nowadays, many young people are imitating it. They graffiti on the street in broad daylight, run away when JC sees him, and come out to continue graffiti after JC leaves. Anonymous seems to have become a kind of spiritual leader overnight. He is mysterious and powerful and dares to challenge the powerful. A combination of various factors has captured many young people. London has always been a city of contradictions. The aristocratic men are gentle and polite, and the people who grew up on the streets are rebellious and rock and roll. The favorite thing of young people is to rebel and pursue freedom, and want to break all powerful classes. Why country-wise rock music has always led the world. It has the most nutritious land that can nourish the growth of those rebellious spirits. This incident seems to be a rebellious carnival for young people, just like those male characters in comics. Following the crowd and feeling independent are the biggest characteristics of young people. There has never been a year when the people of Country Y hated Guangxi so much. The death of Princess Diana and this year took away the last goodwill of the people towards Guangxi. What is the Big Y Museum? It is not just a museum. It is also the last face of Guangxi and a witness to the bloody history left by history. However, many people regard this place as a proof of nostalgia for the glory of the past. In such a country that flaunts the freedom of the people, there are still existences like Guangxi and the Big Y Museum. It is really the biggest mockery of the freedom of the people. This year is the beginning of Guangxi's complete fall from the altar. In the days to come, whether Guangxi or Big Y will make the world lose patience and stop listening to their voices. The young man's anger and rebellion against Guangxi seemed to be awakened at this time, and he had to do something to vent his inner anger. However, the older people of Country Y still hope that Guangxi can continue to exist. This is a symbol of the glory of the empire on which the sun never sets. It is a pity that they will eventually be eliminated by the times. What started as a small thing and developed to this point seems to be full of coincidences. Even the sunset ceremony of Xiang Jiang's return and the left-wing worker becoming the official of the Big Y have invisibly affected the changes in the situation. If it were another time, this matter would never develop like it is now. What is happening now is too wonderful and fast. Chen Lian in the detention room didn't know what was happening outside. He couldn't use the phone or read the news. Even the JC didn't come to interrogate him, as if he had forgotten. Chen Lian looked at the desk outside the detention room, with a newspaper placed on it. After groping in his pocket for a while, he took out more than £400 and said to JC, who was looking at them, "Can you give me that newspaper?" Quiet. The JC turned to look at Chen Lian and wanted to say a few more words to him, but he saw the color of banknotes in Chen Lian's hand holding the iron fence, and Chen Lian stretched out 4 fingers, and he suddenly understood. JC coughed and picked up the newspaper, walked up to Chen Lian naturally and blocked Chen Lian's hand with the newspaper. After feeling him stuff the banknotes into his hand, he pretended to turn around and leave, but the newspaper in his hand fell on the ground. On the ground. As soon as Chen Lian knelt down to pick up the newspaper and opened it, people in the same detention room gathered around him. They were also worried about whether they could get out. The latest news in newspapers can help them understand what is going on outside. Chen Lian ignored the people behind him and couldn't help laughing when he looked at the news headlines in the newspaper. The title of "Violence in London" is scary, but in fact it is definitely not that serious. Chen Lian did not immediately read the details of the report. He turned to the next page and saw that the following report stated that the anonymous organization had once again taken action to paint London with the color of freedom. The title is quite exaggerated, but the content of the report is very objective and does not contain any political views. None of the major mainstream newspapers in country Y has an obvious political leaning. Well, except for the Times after Murdoch took over. Although it looked very objective, Chen Lian could still tell that some of the words used in the newspaper were biased. For example, the word illegal appeared 6 times in the first report, and the word sabotage was used 4 times in the second report. At first glance, it seems objective, but in fact it can still unconsciously affect the reader's judgment. Chen Lian didn't have any surprises. As for his local newspaper, it was already fine if he didn't directly spray the news. It's just that Chen Lian is now a little worried about when these students will be able to go out. It's not a problem if they are locked up for too long. Not only Chen Lian is worried, there are also many people outside who are worried. The only ones who are not worried may be those forces who want to take the opportunity to negotiate terms with YF. They are really not in a hurry, even if the people being imprisoned are citizens of their own country. The longer the situation remains closed, the greater the public opinion will be. The international community is now turning its attention here, and foreign correspondents from many countries are conducting non-stop interviews and reports. Jifa was still discussing with the lawyer what to do next, and Bai Qing also went to the Big S after taking a nap tiredly. It's only 24 hours away, and there has to be an explanation. Lu Tao, who had figured out the general situation, was calling back to China to report the situation here. Although he was scolded by Li Dabai and Gong Li, Lu Tao could only listen. She also knew that she, the assistant, is really unqualified. To be precise, as an assistant, she is too inactive. She will not take the initiative unless Chen Lian arranges tasks. Maybe it is because she is too young. But after this time, the assistant was done. After Lu Tao made a phone call for more than half an hour, he sat in the corner of the sofa and thought about what he should do in the future. As for Chen Lian's safety, that was not her concern. There are more and more graffiti on the streets of London, and more people are participating in demonstrations and protests. Workers' D seems to turn a blind eye to this, and seems to want to tear off the last dignity of the nobility. They have been advocating the abolition of the royal style, and always want to take action against the nobles in the House of Lords. The current situation may not be guided by them, but who knows? The situation is getting more and more complicated, and Chen Lian and the others will not be released so soon. However, Chen Lian could feel that nothing would happen to his people, otherwise there would be no one to interrogate them. Chen Lian handed the newspapers to the students and sat in the corner thinking about life. At this time, he was very calm and calmly thinking about various possibilities in his heart. Maybe this time we can really force the Big Y Museum to return some cultural relics. When everyone is attacking it, this Sunset Empire will have to bow its head, not to mention that there are enemies within. Near noon, Ji Fa came again with his lawyer. This time Ji Fa also met Chen Lian, chatted with him quietly for more than half an hour, and then left. In the evening, the news about Chen Lian in Bureau J appeared in newspapers and the media. Although it did not occupy much space, it was also a means of releasing security information to the outside world. Everyone wants to release such news, otherwise the outside world will not know how to guess. It's just that the information will be released but the people will not be released. There won't be a conclusion until 48 hours. The big shots are busy negotiating, who cares about these people locked up in Bureau J? At this time, the country also received news that Chen Lian was safe in Bureau J, and many people breathed a sigh of relief. Gong Li and Chen Miran were originally planning to go to Country Y, but Ji Fa personally called them to tell them not to come and join in the fun, so they had no choice but to hold back. But at this time, a handsome but extremely haggard man stepped off a plane from Shanghai in London. Zhang Guorong looked at the hazy air in London and took a breath, scolding Chen Lian countless times. How silly and bold! Why are you involved in this kind of thing? Can't you just be your artist? Isn't it good to pick up beautiful girls and then be a scumbag? If you have to be a hero, you are an artist and an actor. You really think of yourself as a superhero. Soon Zhang Guorong contacted Ji Fa and went directly to the hotel. After arriving at the hotel, he wanted Ji Fa to take him to the J Bureau to see Chen Lian. But today's visit is over, and Zhang Guorong can only wait until tomorrow. Zhang Guorong stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window of the hotel, looking at the scene outside. For a moment, he doubted whether he had arrived in London. Why was everything in such a mess? On the way from the airport, he saw many young people painting graffiti on the streets with red triangles on their faces, looking like terrorists. Bai Qing came back from the Big S Hall at this time, and the sky was completely dark. After she talked to Ji Fa about the communication situation in the Big S Hall, she came behind Zhang Guorong. Mr. Zhang, long time no see. Thank you for coming to support Lian. Leslie Chung turned to look at Bo Qing and said, we are friends. He can go from Hong Kong to Argentina for me, and I can also come to London. Bo Qing smiled and said, Lian will be very happy to have a friend like you, but you don't have to worry, he will be out tomorrow. Zhang Guorong immediately asked seriously, are you sure? I'm sure. It's just that the things here are too complicated. I'm not very clear about it. I just know that there are too many things involved. Lian is the eye of the storm, but he will be fine. After Bai Qing finished explaining, he looked at Zhang Guorong's haggard face and said, get a good rest tonight, otherwise he will scold you again when he comes out and sees you like this. Zhang Guorong, is this a friend or a father? In the early morning in China, a group of people from the Film Association were wondering what to do with this year's Golden J Awards. Now it is certain that Chen Lian will not come back. What should I do with the best actor? Should I replace him? Let's change it. If it were the day after leaving LF, Peggy Lou would have done a good job. I don't agree with the substitution. He is bleeding abroad, so we are taking away the honor that should belong to him. What about awarding awards? How can we award awards if no one comes? Anyway, I don't agree. The conference room immediately started a heated discussion, but no one cared about this kind of thing now, not even the director Huo Jiankai. Singer has been released, and the box office performance is not bad and will reach the 10 million threshold. It is not considered a success, but it has passed the test. However, Huo Jiankai is not happy at all. He and Chen Lian are very good friends. Chen Lian helped him in both of his movies. Although Chen Lian was a little picky about the script and had too many demands, he was indeed a loyal person. My friends never hesitate when spending money. Now that something happened to Chen Lian, he no longer cares about whether the movie can win awards. I don't know how many people couldn't sleep because of this in the past 2 days, all because of Chen Lian. Soon London time came from late at night to 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. Chen Lian was still sleeping when he was called out alone. The person who came was a man in a suit and leather shoes, with the calmness and ruthlessness of a politician. He looked at Chen Lian and handed over several blurry photos and said, "Mr. Chen, is that you in the photos?" Chen Lian took a look and found that it was a surveillance photo of himself graffitiing at the entrance of the Big Y Museum. However, his face was not visible in the photo and it was very blurry. He shrugged and said, "So you are planning to frame me?" The man opposite smiled and took back the photo and said, "I hope you will keep this statement in the future. You will release it today, but you must follow the speech and the reporter's explanation." The man handed over another envelope. Chen Lian opened it and looked at it. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. There was a pain in the injured eyebrow bone. However, this also made his thinking clearer. He looked at the contents on the paper and thought for a while. "Will say, no problem, but I would like to ask if the Big Y Museum will really return the cultural relics. This is not what you need to know. You just need to follow my plan and face the reporters." After the man finished speaking, he stood up and said, "You still have half an hour. I hope you can remember everything." After saying that, the man left. Chen Lian couldn't help but curl his lips. "You think you are James Bond, pretending to be cool." However, Chen Lian now understands what they mean. If he doesn't tell the reporter according to the content of the manuscript, the anonymous person will be directly blamed on him regardless of whether there is evidence or not. Chen Lian couldn't help but sigh. He looked at the contents of the manuscript and found nothing against it. It was almost what he wanted to say, but he didn't expect that these people would let him criticize Big Y Museum and Wang Shi. Perhaps he wants to use himself to attract public opinion, and then put pressure on the nobles in exchange for benefits. Who makes him the eye of the storm now? Anonymous will not appear in the whole matter, and it has a certain topic and attention. I am the only insider who seems to be an outsider. Thinking about it, it's really God's way of reincarnation. At first, Chen Lian used others, but now he is being used by others. After more than 10 minutes, Chen Lian wrote down the general content, thought for a moment, tore up the paper with a smile and threw it on the ground. Chen Lian reached out and touched his brow bone. It was still hurting slightly, but the blood on his face had long since dried up. Chen Lian raised his hand and touched his brow bone. Blood oozed from the originally scabbed wound. Chen Lian wiped it randomly and sat there waiting for JC to take him out. Not long after, the door was opened again, and the man just walked in, looked at Chen Lian and asked, "Are you ready?" "Okay," Chen Lian said with a smile. The man in a suit looked at the blood on Chen Lian's brow, and his expression changed slightly, but he couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth when his eyes fell on the shredded paper on the floor. He wanted to take the piece of paper away or burn it, but he didn't expect it to be torn into pieces by Chen Lian. Chen Lian smiled and said, "I can wait until you finish cleaning up, Mr. James Bond." The man was silent for a moment, then bent down to pick up the scraps of paper and put them into his pockets, then said, "I'm not James Bond. If I were you, I'd be lying down by now." Chen Lian spread his hands indifferently. "Who cares who you are? The outcome of the matter has been decided. How can you do anything to me?" After a while, Chen Lian was led out of J Bureau by JC. The outside was surrounded by reporters and protesters. When they saw Chen Lian coming out, they all paused and then surrounded him. Chen Lian squinted at the ray of sunshine in the sky and couldn't help but laugh. After so long, it was finally over. Chen Lian lowered his head and looked at the large and small camera lenses and cameras. Immediately, reporters anxiously asked him whether he was acquitted now, whether he had been treated unfairly in the J Bureau, how he viewed this incident, etc. Chen Lian raised his hand and wiped his forehead and said, "The reason why such a thing happened is because this country with free sovereignty is still immersed in the democratic system of country Y. This is backward and barbaric, and the Big Y Museum is the greatest embodiment of this bloody barbarism. The existence of those cultural relics reminds the world all the time what a brutal and bloody place this is. The whole world is reminded all the time that the Big Y Museum has never been a symbol of civilization, but a shameless show-off of robbers. The existence of the King's style is the greatest irony of free masters, and the existence of the House of Lords is a symbol of powerful monopoly. What the world needs is a free and equal country Y, not a country Y ruled by the old aristocrats hiding in the shadows. I am disappointed and saddened by all this. I decided that until the light of freedom in the future breaks through the haze shrouding country Y, I will never set foot on this land again." At this time, the reporters in the audience were stunned. They did not expect Chen Lian to say such a thing, but the protesting crowd became excited and shouted loudly like free masters, like fanatical believers. Chen Lian's words were also broadcast live. Many people remembered this Easterner named Chen Lian on this day, and for the first time they clearly felt the ridicule of the East for their empire on which the sun never sets. Just like Big Y's ship D was driven away and the sunset ceremony in Xiangjiang a few months ago, Big Y's past glory was once again torn away. At this time, Chen Lian had already passed through the crowd and got on the bus under the protection of JC, leaving only the figures of these people leaving. Half an hour after Chen Lian left Bureau J, the Big Y Museum publicly stated that it would negotiate with various countries in the near future on the issue of the retention of lost cultural relics. At this time, the government also came forward to appeal to the people not to continue to participate in the parade, but Wang Shi has not spoken out in this matter, and the rights of the House of Lords have been unknowingly taken away. There was also constant laughter in several Big S halls at this time. Only Chen Lian is being scolded so bloody, as if he is the only one injured in the world. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 356. Chapter 345-344. The first actor in life. In the smooth car, Chen Lian glanced at the police station behind him through the rearview mirror. He looked away after seeing all the students leaving safely. The car was very quiet, so quiet that Chen Lian felt a little weird. He turned to look at Jifa and Bai Qing, who came to pick him up, and asked in a low voice, "Why don't you say anything? Did something happen?" Jifa looked at Chen Lian with a sneer and asked, "Tell me, what do you mean by not coming to the UK in the future? Just curse the royal family and the museum. Everyone is scolding me. What does it mean by not coming to the UK?" Chen Lian looked at Bo Qing again without saying a word. Bai Qing stared at Chen Lian's brow bone and said with some distress, "I just don't want to talk right now." "Does it hurt?" Chen Lian wiped his aching brow bone and said with a smile, "It doesn't hurt." Zhang Guorong, who was sitting in the front row of the car, suddenly looked back at Chen Lian and said, "Let's go to the hospital." "Why are you here?" Chen Lian was stunned for a moment, looked at Zhang Guorong and asked. "I'm afraid you'll die here, so I'll collect your body," Zhang Guorong replied harshly. Chen Lian, I really shouldn't have gone to Argentina to save him. The atmosphere in the car is still very joyful, but the outside world is still in chaos now. Public opinion will not calm down so quickly, and young people who have just released their rebellious souls will not be able to restrain themselves so easily. Graffiti on the street will attract many people to watch, and you can also play hide and seek with the police. It will also give those young people the illusion that I am protesting against the injustice of the world, that I am the world's most awakened person, and it will give people a sense of accomplishment and a sense of superiority. What Chen Lian said at the police station door at that time also spread more and more widely with the media. A person from the literary and art circle broke out of the literary and art circle and took the initiative to block Daying under the attention of the world. In the past, a certain country would deport individuals, but this time it's the other way around. Public opinions were abuzz for a while, and the face of the sun never sets empire was just pinned to the ground and trampled by Chen Lian. Jifa was so angry that he wanted to beat Chen Lian to death. Looking at him, he asked angrily, "You are an artist, not a revolutionary." Chen Lian smiled awkwardly and said, "Actually, I was forced. Those words are not what I wanted to say. They won't let me go unless I say them, you understand." Jifa held her chest and looked at Chen Lian with a sneer and said, "Editor, keep making it up, I don't believe they forced you to say the last sentence. Hey, do you think I can still come here in the future? I'm not welcome anyway, it doesn't matter whether I say it or not." Chen Lian shrugged his shoulders and said, "And this can also expand public opinion." Jifa looked at Chen Lian and was silent for a while before saying, "Forget it, I've said it all, let's see if I can use this opportunity to push you up." Chen Lian breathed a sigh of relief. He was actually worried that Jifa would beat him up in anger. Bai Qing interrupted at this time, "Then are we leaving the UK today?" "Well, inform Lu Tao and ask her to take people to the museum to take away all the things. Let's leave London today and go directly to New York." In Beijing, CCTV's evening news reported the news of Chen Lian's release, and many friends who were worried about Chen Lian breathed a sigh of relief. "But what I feel more in my heart is admiration. Why is this guy so awesome?" He pointed at the royal family in London and scolded him. "This guy is so awesome. The bombing of Tokyo was shocking enough before, but now you are pointing your nose at others and scolding them on their territory. If you weren't so awesome, you can just change your nationality, and maybe you can run for parliament." People in the domestic entertainment industry have very complicated feelings at this time. Originally, they only felt that Chen Lian was a little more awesome than them, but now they find that Chen Lian is really awesome. After reading this series of events, many people subconsciously wondered whether the so-called anonymous was Chen Lian. Mainland entertainment circles just sighed and said that Chen Lian is awesome, but the situation in Xianjiang has already exploded. "I used to lick the butts of Great Britain and the royal family for decades, but now I find that even an artist I looked down on before can point at my queen and scold him. How can I lick this damn thing from now on? It feels like the queen is not clean and can't take it off her mouth." However, dog licking is practiced everywhere, regardless of age or age. Many people still think that Chen Lian is arrogant. Why do you look down on noble men? You are just a stupid artist with a humble background. But now I only dare to scold him behind his back. Even the royal family dares to scold him. If I stand up and scold Chen Lian, will he be beaten up like the king of sunglasses? Forget it, this is a madman, you can't afford to offend him, just run away. In a private hospital in London, Chen Lian was treating his wounds. Many people gathered around him to see what this warrior looked like. Chen Lian didn't want to be watched like a monkey, so he simply treated the wound and left quickly. Chen Lian had just returned to the hotel, and before he could take a breath, Lu Tao ran over, looked at Chen Lian with his mobile phone and said timidly, "Teacher Chen, the domestic phone number belongs to Sister Dabai. Give it to me." "How is the handling at the exhibition hall?" Chen Lian looked at Lu Tao and asked. "We have contacted a professional logistics company and are packing it. It will be airlifted to New York tonight." Lu Tao breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Chen Lian did not scold him. Chen Lian hummed, waved to her, took the phone and walked aside to answer the call. "Dabai." As soon as Chen Lian shouted, he heard Li Dabai's sobbing voice coming from the phone. Teacher Chen Chen, you scared me to death, Li Dabai cried, sounding really scared. He had been holding on for the past 2 days. Now that Chen Lian is fine, he can finally hold back. Chen Lian took the phone and softly comforted him for a few words, then said to Li Dabai, nothing happened in the country, right? Li Dabai wiped his tears, sniffed and said, you know you are worried about us, so how dare you show off? What will we do if something happens to you? From now on, your woman will call someone else's husband, and your child will call someone else's father. I'll make you so angry. Chen Lian, it's really humming scary when you think about it. Chen Lian touched his head and thought that he must live a long life. After Li Dabai scolded Chen Lian for a while, he softly said, Teacher Chen, come back quickly. We are all worried about you. Chen Lian sighed and said, I can't go back for the time being. The tour is not over yet. I will go back after the tour is over. You are still holding a tour exhibition. You were arrested in the UK, and you are not allowed to be targeted when you go to the United States. Bah. What are you talking about? Li Dabai, are you cursing me? I won't say anything anymore, so can you please stop going and come back? I'm worried about you while you're abroad. Chen Lian also wanted to go back, but he still had to do the tour, and his reputation was already maxed out, so he would really be at a loss if he didn't take the opportunity to organize the tour. After hanging up the phone with Li Dabai, Chen Lian called Gong Li and the others one by one. After Xiao 20's calls, Chen Lian felt like he was in a trance and had a schizophrenic feeling. Chen Lian hadn't calculated it before, but after making a call today, he realized that there were so many. Fortunately, he has never been a holiday person, otherwise he would have to cut them into minced meat to get enough points for Valentine's Day. Chen Lian sat on the sofa in a daze, rubbing his head. Just as he was about to put away the phone, he suddenly remembered that he hadn't called Lu Xiaoli yet. Just when Chen Lian was about to call Lu Xiaoli, she called. As soon as Chen Lian got through, he heard Lu Xiaoli's worried voice. Are you okay now? Are you injured? Is it serious? Where are you now? I will take care of you. Chen Lian was startled for a moment. He didn't expect Lu Xiaoli's reaction to be so big, but after experiencing the concern of a dozen girls just now, Chen Lian was almost immune. It's okay, don't worry. Just take good care of Sissy at home. I will go back in more than a month, Chen Lian comforted her. Lu Xiaoli bit her lip and hummed. She hesitated for a moment but still didn't tell Chen Lian the news that she was pregnant. She was ready to give him a surprise when he came back. Chen Lian and Lu Xiaoli hung up the phone after chatting for a while. After rubbing his sore ears, Chen Lian stood up and went out to find Jifa and the others, preparing to fly to the United States immediately. Having just finished scolding someone, Chen Lian felt a little unsure. What if that old woman was a small-minded person? Although the media all over the world were watching, he was safe, but what if someone lost his mind? There are all kinds of people in this world. Even the Qing dynasty has died. Some people are still licking the Great Britain, but they just can't stand up. Chen Lian is also being reviled by some people. They accuse him of being arrogant, disrespecting others, provoking international disputes, and saying he has no virtue or ability. When Chen Lian met Jifa, he heard Jifa tell him that many old men in London were scolding him. After a while, Lin Fangmu also called him. Xiao Chen, can you not cause trouble for me? Tell me how you can cause so many troubles by holding an art exhibition. Chen Lian pretended to be aggrieved and said, I was protecting those children. I was the victim. I was bleeding and injured. You can just lie to others, but you also want to lie to me. It's hard to say much on the phone. Anyway, don't cause trouble for me, Lin Fangmu sighed and said, first you provoked those Japanese, and now you provoke them again. You have left the UK, and there will definitely be a lot of people scolding you in the country in the next few days, so you should have a good time during this period before returning. By the way, I will help you control public opinion this time. Please stop fooling around. Speaking of which, I still want to thank you this time. I have received news that the British Museum has compromised and will return some cultural relics, but the specific situation still under negotiation. Chen Lian breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Then the stick I received is not in vain." "Okay, please be careful during this period." Lin Fangmu said a few words and hung up the phone. Chen Lian held the phone and couldn't understand why there were so many strange people in this world. If you don't find a father for yourself, you can't live. Such people usually have potential and need to rely on a strong person to be able to do it. Just like the theory of the humanist Fromm, this is a masochistic perversion that likes to be mentally weakened, like to be a child, a slave, or even a dog. Gaining pleasure from being degraded and abused will allow him to release stress, get rid of his constraints, and forget about himself and the basics of being a human being. This is a decline syndrome, a degeneration. Just like a theory mentioned by Freud, this is the death instinct. Human instinct is to destroy, but one is to destroy others, and the other is to destroy oneself. People with this instinct, when they are belittled, abused, and treated like dogs, will cling to the strong and unleash themselves unscrupulously. It's just that masochism is mostly reflected in the sexual instinct. Some people are not reflected in the sexual instinct, but like to call others dad. With a dad, you can be an obedient dog instead of a sound person. All morals and cognition will be thrown aside, and you will only bark and feel happiness and freedom. The air abroad is sweet, isn't it? Many people always like to recognize others as their fathers. Chen Lian was quite angry. Judging from the psychological knowledge he had studied for so long, these people were all a bunch of pitiful people. But now he has no time to care about domestic public opinion. There are just a few dogs, and he doesn't believe they dare to bark loudly. At around 8 o'clock that night, Chen Lian and his party got on the plane to New York. They did not encounter any difficulties during their departure, so these gentlemen wanted to show their respect. After Chen Lian flew to the United States, he reported that the country was safe and went to the hotel to rest. During this time, he was really exhausted. At this time, the Golden Rooster Awards are being held in Foshan, China. This year's Golden Rooster Awards are very grand and there are many activities. In addition to the welcome reception on the first day and the opening ceremony on the second day, various activities were also arranged. The local government specially built a Foshan Star Park, and all the stars participated in the groundbreaking ceremony, tours of ancestral temples, and other activities to meet movie fans in businesses and schools. This series of activities went quite smoothly, except for the final fan meeting where something unexpected happened. Chen Lian's fans are not happy now. Where is my idol? Isn't my idol's movie shortlisted? I came all the way to see my idol, but why didn't I see anyone? At the fan meeting, many fans raised questions, which made the host quite embarrassed. Huo Jiankai, as the director, took the microphone and said, "Hello fellow Lian fans, Lian has had some problems abroad recently, so I can't come to participate in this edition of the Golden Rooster Awards for the time being, and Lian also asked me to say hello to everyone. Is Teacher Chen being secretly detained again? Teacher Chen, are you sure it's safe now? Will Teacher Chen show up at the award ceremony?" The series of questions directly made those movie fans unable to control themselves, and all kinds of messy questions followed one after another. Huo Jiankai couldn't help but wipe the sweat from his forehead. "I don't usually see how much you like Chen Lian, and the movie box office is not doing well. But it's okay to make such a fuss now." Huo Jiankai said immediately, "Calm down, everyone. I'm going to call Lian now and ask him to say hello to everyone." Lian is safe now and has gone to the United States to continue holding art exhibitions. After hearing Huo Jiankai's words, The fans stopped and Huo Jiankai quickly took out his mobile phone to call Chen Lian. The phone was beeping. Huo Jiankai looked at the expectant fans and said lively, "International calls are answered slowly. It's still night in the United States. Lian will probably scold me when he answers the phone. You guys have to explain it to me later." "Okay, I'll definitely help you explain." "Haha, you are the director, Teacher Chen still dares to scold you." "Who doesn't scold Teacher Chen?" "Haha, it's true." Huo Jiankai's head is full of black lines, and this generation of movie fans is not easy to follow. After the phone rang a few more times, it was connected, and Chen Lian's lazy and hoarse voice was heard through the microphone throughout the event. "Hey, Lao Huo, why are you looking for me so late?" It's Teacher Chen's voice. "Teacher Chen. We are your fans. Can Teacher Chen hear us?" Huo Jiankai quickly stretched out his hand to signal everyone to be quiet, then smiled and held up his mobile phone to explain that this was at a fan meeting. After explaining it quickly, he said to Chen Lian, "Lian, say hello to the fans and friends." There was silence on the other end of the phone for a while, and the fans thought the call had been hung up. Just as they were wondering, Chen Lian's voice came again. "Hello, fellow movie fans, I am Chen Lian. I am very happy that you can attend the fan meeting. I am also sorry that I cannot be there to meet you. Thank you for your support. I love you." Chen Lian's voice is still a little hoarse, but the low and hoarse voice is very nice, especially the last sentence "I love you," which makes many little girls can't help but grab the hand of their boyfriend next to them. Teacher Chen actually said she loves me," a little girl shouted excitedly. Her boyfriend couldn't help but hold his forehead and shout softly, "It's us." The girl turned her head and glanced at her dog. "What, you still want to compete with me for a man?" After Chen Lian finished speaking, the event site was noisy for a while before it quieted down, and the phone number had long been disconnected. Huo Jiankai took the microphone and explained with an embarrassed smile, "International long-distance calls are too expensive, and my mobile phone is in arrears. Movie fans, go top up your money. A big director can't even pay his phone bill." Huo Jiankai explained for a while, telling him not to disturb Chen Lian's rest, so that he could put the matter aside. He Qing and Su Qing sat together and murmured, "Chen Lian is more popular than us even if he doesn't come. Comparing people is so irritating." Su Qing said with a smile, "She is charming. There is nothing I can do about the fans liking her." He Qing glanced at her, "Not only the movie fans like it, but you also like her very much." After these activities of the Golden Rooster Awards are over, it's time for the award ceremony, which was very lively and almost all the stars in the awards circle came. Almost all of Chen Lian's good sisters and sisters were here. Only Lu Xiaoli, the only outsider, was sitting at home watching Sissy do her homework. Sissy looked at Lu Xiaoli with a grimace and said, "Mom, why don't you go to dance practice? I can write alone." Lu Xiaoli touched her belly and said, "I can't dance now, so I'll spend more time with you." "Didn't you say you wanted your mother to spend more time with you?" Sissy lowered her head in frustration, but she didn't want to do it when she was doing her homework. There was no such warmth at the Golden Rooster Awards ceremony, only the shining stars. Almost all domestic actors and stars, big and small, attended. Even if the Golden Rooster Award has nothing to do with me, I still have to come and join in the fun. There are only a few film festivals in the country, so I must participate in such a good opportunity. The only pity is that the best actor tonight is not here. Many people who have never met Chen Lian want to take the opportunity to get to know him. The awards ceremony began soon. The small awards in the front were awarded very quickly, and the heavyweight awards were awarded behind them. When it was announced that the Best Actor winner of this year's Golden Rooster Award was Chen Lian, the venue burst into warm applause. As a director, Huo Jiankai tidied up his clothes and smiled and signaled to everyone, We are also the great director who won the Best Actor award. Looking for actors in the future will not be easy. However, Huo Jiankai hadn't even been talking for a while when he caught a glimpse of Chen Lian's good lovers from the corner of his eye, looking a little ready to make a move. Huo Jiankai didn't care about pretending to be calm anymore and immediately stood up and ran towards the stage. But he couldn't let those women get there first, otherwise Chen Lian would kill him when he came back. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 357. Chapter 346-345. Broadway, New York. The air in New York was still humid. When Chen Lian woke up in the morning, he felt energetic again. However, the wound on the brow bone cannot be touched with water. It is very troublesome to wash the face. I can only wipe it bit by bit. When Chen Lian came out of the bathroom, Bo Qing had already taken out the medicine box and was waiting. Come here to change the dressing. I don't know if there will be any scars. Bo Qing was worried as he removed the gauze. Chen Lian said with a smile, it doesn't matter if you have a scar, it can be considered a hero's scar. Bah, shameless, you are still a hero. Bo Qing couldn't help but roll his eyes at Chen Lian, pulled him to sit down and carefully removed the gauze on Chen Lian's brow bone. Bai Qing looked at it carefully and said, there should be no scars, otherwise such beautiful eyes would not be gentle. Chen Lian said nothing. Men never care about scars on their bodies. After changing the medicine, Bai Qing said with some worry, but will your incident really not be discovered this time? It has been discovered, but the evidence is insufficient and they don't want to expose it, Chen Lian said with a smile. Bai Qing asked in confusion, why? Why else? What else can this do besides boosting my reputation? Chen Lian explained with a smile. Bai Qing nodded, and then said, I guess you are on someone's blacklist now. If you have done such a big thing by yourself, you are no longer an artist, you are almost becoming a conspirator. But I've never seen you be so stupid, and you got yourself involved in it. Not only was you injured, you were imprisoned for a few days. Chen Lian laughed loudly and said, what is this called? This is called a counselor entering the game with his own body, and defeating half of the sky with a single move. If I hadn't been caught, things wouldn't have developed so fast. If I hadn't spent money to find people behind my back to protest and cause trouble, this thing might not have been possible. Although luck was mostly involved, the final effect was achieved. Bo Qing frowned and said, you're still drunk. Are all men like this? Heroism is the source of trouble. Chen Lian saw that Bo Qing was a little angry, and said with a ha-ha, stop talking about this, let's go have breakfast, I'm hungry. When Chen Lian and Ji Fa went to the hotel restaurant and were about to finish breakfast, Ji Fa came over yawning. Seeing Chen Lian's lively appearance, he couldn't help but kick him. It's all your fault. Adding so much workload to me. Chen Lian handed over a cup of coffee in a flattering manner. He did not do this well, and he was bragging, but it did bring a lot of trouble to the people around him. After coaxing Ji Fa for a few words, Chen Lian asked, is the Metropolitan Museum of Art still willing to let me hold an exhibition? Speaking of this, Ji Fa couldn't help but look at Chen Lian with strange eyes and said, yes, but their person in charge asked me to tell you that the cultural relics in the Metropolitan Museum are all bought or donated, not stolen. Chen Lian, a special explanation is needed. However, the most famous set of bronzes in the metropolis was indeed bought and sold by a descendant of Duan Fang, an official of the Qing dynasty, for 200,000 taels of silver. Duan Fang's descendants sold a lot of cultural relics. In addition, many Chinese collectors immigrated to the United States and donated their collections of cultural relics to American museums after their deaths. It's hard to tell what's going on specifically, no one knows, and Chen Lian can't figure it out, but it's not like there aren't cultural relics stolen from these museums. The Museum of Fine Arts in Boston has many famous Chinese paintings in its collection. They were all stolen from China by a shameless Japanese robber and sold to them. Chinese cultural relics are basically lost in various countries around the world. They come from various sources. It is really difficult to evaluate them. Jifa looked at Chen Lian, who was in a daze, and asked, "You're not going to cause trouble again, are you? Just stay quietly in the hotel." "No, I'm not crazy. I did so many things in London because the British Museum deliberately displayed so many cultural relics in my exhibition." Chen Lian paused and said, "This is a naked provocation. I can't stand them." The face of a robber. "Okay, don't explain to me." Jifa didn't bother to listen to Chen Lian's reasons, but solemnly warned him not to go out to cause trouble again. Of course, Chen Lian agreed wholeheartedly. He had no intention of causing trouble and would just go back to China after finishing the exhibition. After breakfast, Jifa refused to let Chen Lian go out for a walk. After leaving him under Zhang Guorong's care, Jifa took Bai Qing to the Metropolitan Museum. In the hotel room, Zhang Guorong looked at Chen Lian with his head on his head, and said sleepily, "It's all your fault, my vacation is gone." Chen Lian said with disgust, "I don't want to be with you yet, it will delay my going to Broadway." "You want to go to Broadway?" "I want to go too. Just wait for me and I'll check out what shows are on Broadway recently." After saying that, Zhang Guorong ran to make a phone call. Chen Lian couldn't help but curl up his lips. Zhang Guorong's character was so deceptive. Chen Lian stretched and was about to go back to his room to change clothes when his cell phone rang. At this time, the Foshan Golden Rooster Award ceremony had just ended. Huo Jiankai looked at the Golden Rooster Award trophy in his hand and waited with great interest for Chen Lian to answer the phone and share the good news with him. Not long after, the call was connected, and Huo Jiankai immediately said happily, "Lian, you won the award. Golden Rooster Award Best Actor. It's a pity that you couldn't come back, so I have to help you receive the award." "Thank you, I'll treat you to dinner when I get back." When Chen Lian heard that he had won the award, he didn't feel anything at all. He just became a best actor. It would only happen sooner or later. Huo Jiankai said speechlessly, "Are you not happy at all?" "What's there to be happy about? I can afford this trophy." After Chen Lian finished speaking in a relaxed tone, he was about to tease Huo Jiankai when he heard Gong Li's voice coming from the other end of the phone. "Are you okay in the United States? I'll wait a few days to see you." Chen Lian was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that the phone would reach Gong Li's hand, so he smiled and said, "No, I'm fine. It will start in 2 days. I will be very busy and I won't have time to accompany you." "Then when will you come back?" "I'll go back next month." Huo Jiankai watched Gong Li chatting with Chen Lian on his phone. He wanted to speak several times, but he held back. "I wonder how many more minutes the phone bill you just recharged will last. You two don't have your own phone." Chen Lian and Gong Li chatted for a while, and Leslie Chung ran over, holding a note in his hand and saying, "There is a Lion King musical on Broadway tonight, and it is said to be very popular." Chen Lian and Gong Li chatted for a while and hung up the phone before looking at Leslie Chung and asking, "Which theater? Can I buy tickets?" Leslie Chung patted his forehead and said, "New Amsterdam Theater, I'm going to call and book tickets now." Seeing Leslie Chung running away in a hurry, Chen Lian shouted from behind, "4 tickets. New." After a while, Zhang Guorong came back disappointed. He looked at Chen Lian and said, "There are no more tickets. There are only tickets for 3 days later." Chen Lian had already guessed that The Lion King was so popular this year, and even though it had been on for more than a month, it would be difficult to book tickets. "It's okay, let's go directly to Broadway." Zhang Guorong frowned and said, "Why are you going there if you don't have a ticket? You have to believe that there is an animal in this world. Wherever tickets are sold, he will definitely exist. Cattle. You guessed it, let's go, spend more money, it's not bad anyway." Half an hour later, Chen Lian and Leslie Chung arrived on Broadway wearing long windbreakers and sunglasses. It's so lively here, probably because it's almost Christmas, so there are so many tourists. Chen Lian and Zhang Guorong were walking on the street, looking at the people coming and going, and felt a little embarrassed for a moment. Where are the scalpers? Chen Lian and Zhang Guorong stood in front of the New Amsterdam Theatre for more than 10 minutes, but they didn't see anyone who looked like a scalper. The local scalpers are so unprofessional, Chen Lian couldn't help but cursed. It's so cold that someone would freeze to death standing on the street. Leslie Chung looked at Chen Lian speechlessly and said, "Is it possible that there are no scalpers here? This theater belongs to Disney. You know, Disney's legal affairs. Chen Lian, you told me earlier that this theater is owned by Disney." It was strange to see scalpers at the door. Chen Lian looked around and decisively pulled Zhang Guorong away. "But I walked slowly, and after walking through an intersection, someone approached me. 'Hey, which country are you from? Are you traveling here?' Chen Lian glanced at him and felt that he was a scalper, so he simply said that he was Chinese and wanted to come to Broadway to watch a show, but he couldn't buy a ticket and was about to leave. Hearing what Chen Lian said, the man immediately raised his chin and asked, 'What drama do you want to watch?' 'The Lion King tonight.' Chen Lian didn't beat around the bush, put his arm around Scalper's shoulders and whispered a few words, then paid him $700 and got the ticket. After getting the ticket, Chen Lian shook the ticket in his hand and said to Leslie Chung, "Whatever happens, I'll just say there are scalpers everywhere." "You're awesome, but it's still early, why should we go?" "Of course we're going to have a drink. I can't wait." After Chen Lian finished speaking, he pulled Zhang Guorong away. It's a pity that before Chen Lian reached the door of the bar, Ji Fa's phone call came, and then he quickly led Bo Qing over. In the bar, Chen Lian lowered his head and ate French fries, listening to Ji Fa's chatter. After a while, Ji Fa stopped nagging. He looked at the tickets for the general area on the table and said with disgust, "The view from this location is very poor. $700 is just to defraud fools like you who don't know anything. You two fools." Zhang Guorong raised his head in confusion. "You scolded him, why did you scold me? Don't talk about martial ethics." In the evening, Chen Lian and the others still watched The Lion King, but they only sat in the best seats and in a private box. It's just that there are a little too many people and it seems a little crowded. There were still 10 minutes left before the show started. Chen Lian felt that he had just drank a little too much at the bar, so he got up and went to the bathroom. After entering the theater, Chen Lian lost his disguise of sunglasses and windbreaker and was recognized. Chen Lian has been in a lot of news these days. The New York Times and Washington Daily reported Chen Lian's affairs in the UK. It's not surprising to be recognized, but Chen Lian didn't expect that the American people liked him quite a lot, and even talked with him for several times, and they complained about the arrogant British guy. Chen Lian coughed awkwardly, shook his body and zipped up, turned to look at the man who had been complaining about the British guy, patted him on the shoulder and said, "Friend, you are right, it is indeed arrogant and annoying." The man glanced sideways at Chen Lian's hand and said quietly, "Did you do it on purpose?" "I don't understand what you are talking about. Time is running out. I have to go back first." After Chen Lian finished speaking, he left quickly, fearing that the man just turned around and slapped him in the face. But the hands were quite clean after wiping them. The man's suit was made of wool and was very absorbent. After Chen Lian came out, he washed his hands again and was looking in the mirror to fix his hair when he saw a beautiful woman flashing in the mirror. Although he only caught a glimpse of her from the corner of his eye, she was very stunning. Chen Lian turned his head and took another look. He felt familiar, but he was not sure. He didn't come back to his senses until the woman walked away. "She looks like Jennifer Connelly, but I only remember her back in Once Upon a Time in America, so I couldn't help but put on my clothes." Chen Lian muttered, wiped his hands and returned to the private room. The performance of The Lion King was indeed wonderful. Chen Lian was very engaged in watching it. Although the plot was simple but classic enough, the actors performed well and sang very well. When he came out of the theater, Chen Lian was a little unsatisfied. In his previous life, he liked to watch musicals and dramas, but he hadn't done so in several years. In Chen Lian's previous life, whenever he had nothing to do, he would go to the theater. If there was a drama, he would watch a drama. If there was no drama, he would watch dramas. He liked it very much. Maybe it's because I was a drama actor in my previous life. I have been engaged in art in my life, and I have seen a lot of art exhibitions, but very few dramas. The last time I went to the theater was to see Lu Xiaoli's Chuyun. Chen Lian suddenly thought of Lu Xiaoli, and then of Jennifer Connelly, whom he had just glimpsed. He felt that he and the theater were really destined, and he met beautiful women every time. It's just that this time after the sudden glimpse, Chen Lian didn't see Jennifer Connelly. What are you thinking about? Let's go back quickly. Ji-fa patted Chen Lian on the shoulder, not knowing what he was doing. Only Bai Qing pinched Chen Lian secretly and asked in a low voice, "Who did you see again? Your eyes just looked wrong." Chen Lian endured the pain and coughed. As expected, the person who knew him best was Bo Cheng. He was discovered after just diverging his thoughts. "It's nothing. Let's go back to the hotel quickly. It's really cold." Chen Lian put his arm around Bai Qing and walked toward the parking lot. Ji-fa, who was acting as the driver on the way back, kept complaining, saying that he was very pitiful. Not only did he have to cure it but also work as a driver, and he also had to be a nanny for Chen Lian, so he couldn't sleep well at night. Chen Lian listened silently, and after silently counting Ji-fa's 3 complaints about not sleeping well at night, he coughed heavily. Ji-fa glanced at Chen Lian, then stopped talking, and an imperceptible smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The repeated chapters have been replaced with new chapters 344 this afternoon. This is not a repeat subscription. If you haven't read it, you can go and make up for it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 358. Chapter 347-346. Advanced Reading Comprehension. In the corridor of the hotel, Zhang Guorong returned to the room first. Chen Lian opened his door and was about to go in with Bai Qing when he heard Ji-fa say, "Would you like to have a drink together?" Chen Lian turned to look at her and said, "Forget it, it's getting late." Bai Qing shook his head without interest and said a little tiredly, "I'm too tired tonight, I want to go to bed early." "Well, you go to bed early." Ji-fa showed a disappointed expression and sighed, "I'm going to have insomnia again tonight. I don't know if I can sleep well tonight." There was sadness on Ji-fa's beautiful face, but there was a hint in her eyes when she looked at Chen Lian. "You will definitely have a good sleep tonight," Chen Lian said with a normal expression, and gave Ji-fa a subtle look to indicate that he had received the signal. Ji-fa then smiled lightly, waved his hand and said to Bai Qing and Chen Lian, "Then I wish you a good dream and good night." "Good night." After Ji-fa left, Chen Lian and Bo Qing went back to the room. As soon as the door was closed, Bo Qing said, "Ji-fa has been really busy recently, and it's all because of you that she didn't have a good rest. You can give her a gift later to express your gratitude. Just take a moment." Chen Lian hummed. Ji-fa couldn't sleep well because of himself and needed to vent his emotions. Chen Lian took off his coat and hung it up, hugged Bai Qing and smelled her faint fragrance and asked, "What do you think I should give you better? What else does Ji-fa like besides money?" Bai Qing was stunned for a moment, thinking of what Ji-fa wanted to do to him that night, and muttered in his heart, "He still likes me, but he can't give it to her." "It's up to you. You can also give her money." Wrap her a red envelope. Chen Lian thought for a while and said, okay, then give her a red envelope and give her several 100 million. You've become more and more fond of bragging recently. Where did you get the hundreds of millions? Bo Qing patted Chen Lian and said, go and take a bath. I want to relax and have a good sleep. Okay. Chen Lian immediately ran to release the water. After half an hour of busy back and forth, the room finally became quiet. In the steamy bathroom, Chen Lian was wiping his hair in front of the mirror, while passionate blues music could be heard outside the bathroom. Bai Qing was nestled under the quilt, her face still flushed from the bath, but she had already fallen asleep. Chen Lian walked out of the bathroom and looked at Bai Qing, who was sleeping soundly. He walked over and called her name softly a few times. There was no response from the sleeping Bo Qing. After Chen Lian tucked her in, he turned off the music, put on his clothes and went out quietly. Boom, boom, boom. Chen Lian had just knocked twice when the door was opened. Before he could see clearly, Ji Fa grabbed his collar with one hand and pulled him in. Boom. The door was closed. After chatting with Ji Fa for a long time, it was already almost 3 o'clock in the morning. Chen Lian went back quietly. If he didn't go back, Ji Fa would really not be able to rest well tonight. But after going back, Chen Lian couldn't sleep either. He always felt that Ji Fa's coveting of Bai Qing was getting heavier and heavier, and she must be so greedy. Alas, it's not enough to have a handsome guy like me, he also wants to occupy Bai Qing, a greedy woman. Chen Lian fell asleep in a daze with random thoughts. When they woke up the next day, Bo Qing and Ji Fa had already gone to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Chen Lian, a idle man, went to trick Zhang Guorong into going out for fun again. The two of them rented a car and played wildly outside for a whole day. They were only caught back by Ji Fa in the evening. Ji Fa looked at Chen Lian, who had been playing like a dead dog all day, and asked, there is a cocktail party tonight, do you want to go? I don't want to go, it's just those collectors and celebrities, it's boring. Chen Lian slumped on the sofa and didn't want to move. Ji Fa said helplessly, Bo Qing doesn't want to go, and you don't want to go either. Who is organizing the exhibition? After Ji Fa complained, he suddenly approached Chen Lian and said, I heard that there are also Hollywood stars who will go. Don't you want to get to know them? Chen Lian waved his hand and said, I don't want to know you. Ji Fa smiled and said, aren't you curious who it is? Jennifer Connelly, don't you like Once Upon a Time in America the most? Who? Chen Lian sat up immediately. He really wanted to meet this person. Seeing Chen Lian like this, Ji Fa couldn't help but knock him on the head and said, I knew you were like this. I won't take you with me. Is Jennifer really going? I lied to you. Let me accompany you. Everyone has male companions. I'm afraid you'll be too lonely if you go alone. This man was so shameless that Ji Fa couldn't stand it anymore, but he still took Chen Lian to the reception. It's always good to know more people, and Chen Lian is famous enough in Europe and Asia, but he is still a little lacking in the United States. In Ji Fa's plan, Chen Lian's future development focus will also shift to the United States and Asia, whether in terms of art or business, it will shift to the United States. In terms of art, among the world's 3 major art centers, the UK has definitely blacklisted Chen Lian. Chen Lian no longer needs to develop in Paris, but the United States is still blank. In terms of business, both Chen Lian's electronic products and the cultural brand prepared in Tokyo are more suitable for development in the United States. There are too many established brands in Europe, and it is too difficult for Chen Lian to open up the market. It is better to come to the United States, which has no cultural heritage, and the acceptance rate here is also relatively high. The cocktail party in the evening was easy to change. This was Chen Lian's first time attending such a cocktail party and dinner in the United States. He walked onto the red carpet from the moment he got off the car, and there were many reporters taking photos. When Chen Lian appeared, he did not attract the attention of the reporters at first, but the faint wound on his brow bone still attracted people's attention, and then he was recognized. It's hard to forget that an artist can frequently appear in the international news within a year, not to mention that Chen Lian has been in the public eye recently. Celebrities who are topical are celebrities. If there is a topic, people will naturally pay attention to it. After Chen Lian was recognized, he was immediately surrounded by reporters, asking about his affairs in the UK, but Chen Lian did not answer. They have all left Europe, their goal has been achieved, and this matter is over. However, Chen Lian did not forget to promote his art exhibition at the Metropolis tomorrow. The main purpose of going abroad this time is to promote traditional culture. We must not forget this original intention. The reporters were unwilling to find the information they wanted, but Chen Lian had already entered the venue and could not follow him in, and the security guards would not let them in. The cocktail parties and dinners in the United States are quite different from those in Europe. They are more free and open. Chen Lian took a glass of wine and followed Jifa to meet several American artists and collectors. Then he glanced around the reception. After looking around, Chen Lian realized that Jifa had really lied to him. There's no sign of Jennifer Connelly, not even a familiar person. But it's not surprising. Chen Lian doesn't know many Hollywood stars, and even fewer celebrities in other fields. Chen Lian, who had no goals, had nothing to do, chatting with several American artists about performance art and installation art. There were no waves in American modern art in the 1990s, and it basically continued the style of the 1980s. Compared with artists like Chen Lian who like to play new tricks from time to time, American artists pay less attention to art form than the extension of art. American art likes to talk about politics, so the topic of conversation came up with anonymous. In the eyes of these artists, this anonymous is very interesting. Of course, the most interesting thing is that this morning, a visitor in the British Museum discovered that a medieval oil painting had been graffitied by anonymous. Moreover, this anonymous arrogantly left the date. Counting the time, the British Museum did not find that the painting had been touched by the anonymous for 6 days. This anonymous person is very interesting. He despises capital operations and disdains the art in museums, Matthew Barney said with a smile. This is an artist who has just become popular in the United States in the past 2 years. He is also a performance artist. He likes Chen Lian's works very much and has been chatting with Chen Lian about performance art. Chen Lian glanced at him with a weird expression. Did I mean this? I just want to feel sick about the British Museum. What kind of reading comprehension are you talking about? Chen Lian felt like he was back in a high school Chinese class. The teacher was talking nonsense on the stage in a serious manner, saying that the author planted a tree in the yard to express his oppression and dissatisfaction with society. Matthew looked at Chen Lian with a strange expression and said, "Don't you think so?" "I think he must think so. Museums are actually representatives of capital and packaging of art." He graffitied outside the museum and collected famous paintings in the museum. The graffiti shows contempt for this kind of capital packaging and operation. This is a maverick artist, otherwise he wouldn't be an anonymous. Chen Lian nodded immediately after hearing what he said. Yes, that's what he thinks. He is an artist who pursues pure thoughts. After hearing that Chen Lian recognized his statement, Matthew smiled and said to Chen Lian with a smile, "I don't know when he will come to the United States. I am looking forward to his next creation. His graffiti is very interesting. Maybe it's already here." Chen Lian took a sip of wine and said with a smile. Matthew laughed and said, "No, the European media reported today that there are several more graffiti by him in London." Chen Lian couldn't help but raise his eyebrows after hearing this. Who was impersonating him? Or maybe someone imitated him and got mistaken. Chen Lian suddenly thought that this person could be Banksy. This guy is an Englishman with a graffiti background, and he also likes to create mysteriously on the streets, but normally he should not start creating in a few years. Chen Lian wondered for a moment whether it was because of his appearance that the artist had taken action in advance. I hope he has good luck, but this guy is better at disguise than me, so there is no need to worry about him being exposed. It's quite interesting to think about it. When Chen Lian graffitied in London, he was inspired by Banksy's graffiti in his previous life, but now it inspired him in turn. Anonymous and Banksy are an interesting combination. Chen Lian almost wanted to get to know Banksy, but no one knew what Banksy looked like or what his name was. Chen Lian couldn't find him even if he tried to find him. Hope to have a chance to get to know you in the future. Matthew watched Chen Lian remain silent for a long time. Just when he was about to continue chatting with him about the performance art of the Tokyo bombing, he saw a particularly dazzling woman walking in the door, and the words stopped on his lips. Chen Lian followed his gaze and his eyes lit up. Jifa is a good person, he didn't lie to himself, Jennifer is really here. However, it was a pity that Jennifer had a male companion beside her. Chen Lian looked at her for a few more times and then withdrew his gaze. Matthew smiled and said, "Are you interested in celebrities? I have seen some of your scandals. You are very lucky." Chen Lian, let's just talk about art. It's not interesting to talk about gossip or anything like that. Hollywood stars didn't attract much attention at such a reception, and Jennifer's appearance only made everyone take a few glances and then stop paying attention. The most lively place in the venue was a man with blonde hair. He spoke loudly and had an exaggerated hairstyle. He talked about his Miss Universe project and attracted the attention of many people. Chen Lian looked at the golden retriever and actually wanted to get to know him. He was a comrade who had infiltrated the enemy. However, Chen Lian was not in high spirits tonight, and Jennifer didn't even want to take the initiative to get to know him, let alone get to know an old man. Just because he doesn't take the initiative doesn't mean that others don't take the initiative. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 359. Chapter 348-347. Jennifer, didn't you say you listened to me? There were many people in the lively cocktail party, and there were different circles. Many people were squeezing into circles that did not belong to them. Chen Lian has been following Chuan Jiangguo for a while and found that he can talk to him in every circle and has friends. A businessman became an actor and later ran for election. He is quite similar to Chen Lian in that they both like to be multifaceted. It's just that Chuan Jiangguo later became the boss of the United States, and he was much more powerful than Chen Lian. Chen Lian probably wouldn't even be able to become the chairman of the Artists Association in his life. Later, many people on the internet laughed at Sichuan Jiangguo, saying that he was very unscrupulous, but there were a few people who were better than him. He was a rich man worth billions of dollars and was the boss of the United States. There were really few people who were better than him. When Chen Lian recalled Chuan Jiangguo's glorious deeds, Chuan Jiangguo also noticed him and came over immediately. "Hello, I am Chuan Jiangguo." Chen Lian looked at Chuan Jiangguo and wondered why he came to him, but he stretched out his hand to shake his hand and said with a smile, "Hello, nice to meet you." "Have you heard my name?" Chuan Jiangguo asked with a smile, looking a little surprised and a little complacent. Chen Lian nodded and said, "I've heard of it. I've seen the movie you acted in. Your performance was very good, but I didn't know you were a businessman before." Chuan Jiangguo said with a smile, "Family business, actually I prefer to be an actor." Chen Lian clinked glasses with Chuan Jiangguo and said, "I also like to be an actor. I like the feeling of being on stage and being the center of attention. Then we are very similar, and I also like the feeling of being in the spotlight." Chuan Jiangguo's eyes lit up, as if he saw a close friend. Chen Lian smiled slightly, guessing that saying this would make Chuan Jiangguo happy. This guy really likes to be in the spotlight and has a natural performing personality. Chen Lian has only seen one person who can post dozens or hundreds of updates a day. So far. I just heard you talking about Miss Universe, Chen Lian asked curiously. Chuan Jiangguo nodded and said, yes, I have some shares. This is the largest beauty pageant in the world. Why not let China join Miss Universe? Chen Lian looked at him and said, if there is no oriental face, it will not be worthy of the title of universe. Chuan Jiangguo was a little speechless. He originally wanted to say that China was too backward, but he still held back. However, competitions like Miss Universe do depend on the strength of the country. After all, it cannot be held without money. Chen Lian looked at Chuan Jiangguo, who was speechless, and said more on this topic. If there is an opportunity in the future, he could try to cooperate. The beauty contest and his own cultural brand are actually quite complementary. Chuan Jiangguo is quite curious about Chen Lian. He is very curious about how Chen Lian has become famous all over the world in just over a year. This makes him envious. Regarding this point, Chen Lian really has nothing to share, except that he has created some relatively high-profile works of art. There is capital behind the controversial topics, plus some coincidences and the fame brought by scandals. Chen Lian had read Chuan Jiangguo's encyclopedia before and knew that this guy had been squeezing into the political arena in the past 2 years, and that he had repeatedly jumped between several parties, quite like the American Lou Bulletin. However, Chen Lian still gave Chuan Jiangguo some small suggestions. What you lack is a professional marketing team. You need packaging and topics. Celebrities have their own personalities, and politicians also have their own opinions. Of course, the most important thing is that you need to understand what the people like. After Chen Lian finished speaking, he clinked glasses with Chuan Jiangguo and said, if you are really interested, we can have a good chat another day. I know a few very professional talents. We are the same kind of people. Maybe we will become very good friends. I and you also like to cross borders. I am also an excellent businessman in my country, and we will have many common topics. Chuan Jiangguo was immediately interested and said to Chen Lian, of course, I'm glad to meet a friend like you tonight. Chuan Jiangguo actually checked the information about Chen Lian. He originally wanted to study how Chen Lian became famous, but after checking, he found that this guy is too similar to himself. He is very successful as an actor and even more successful as an artist. The key is that he seems to be very good at business. Chuan Jiangguo suddenly thought that it would be great if Chen Lian could become his partner, so he asked tentatively, are you interested in being Miss Universe in China? Chen Lian was stunned for a moment. He couldn't help raising his eyebrows and coughing, and said, do you have any plans to let China join? Of course. We need a Chinese partner. Stop talking, after drinking this glass of wine, we will be good friends from today on. Ding. The sound of the clinking wine glasses made Chen Lian feel very pleasant. The drink tonight was not in vain. After a while, Ji Fa came over after chatting with a few friends. After saying hello to Chuan Jiangguo, he took Chen Lian to the other side. Who was that Huang Mao just now? Ji Fa asked curiously. Chen Lian joked, the future boss of the United States. Ji Fa rolled his eyes at Chen Lian, thinking that he was deliberately teasing him and not paying attention, so he said, I will take you to meet a few friends, and they will come to support the event tomorrow. Okay, that's a potential customer, Chen Lian agreed with a smile. Chen Lian wasn't very good at socializing, but with Ji Fa's assistance, it went smoothly. The chat ended after more than 10 minutes. Chen Lian breathed a sigh of relief. He still didn't like this kind of occasion. He took a glass of wine and went to sit on the sofa in the corner. But when I walked over, I found that Jennifer was also here, and she was alone. Her original male companion was missing. Chen Lian thought for a moment and then took the initiative to say hello. Jennifer glanced at him and felt that he looked familiar. She nodded and then remained silent. She seemed to be in a bad mood. Chen Lian didn't even think about taking the initiative to stick up to her, so he just sat aside and drank wine leisurely, only glancing at Jennifer from time to time. When Chen Lian set his eyes on Jennifer for the third time, Jennifer finally couldn't help it anymore, looked at him and asked, "Do you want to know me? If you want to know me, be bold instead of sitting there hesitating." What a straight shot. Chen Lian was a little surprised that Jennifer's personality was so different from what he imagined, so he smiled and said, "The East values subtlety. This is America, not the East, and being subtle won't do anything." Jennifer replied quickly, as if she was losing her temper. Chen Lian said with a smile, "Why doesn't it work? Don't we already know each other now? And we have begun to discuss the differences between Eastern and Western cultures." Hearing Chen Lian's words, Jennifer choked for a moment and then couldn't help but laugh. Her depressed brows relaxed, but she still said stiffly, "I don't even know your name, so I don't count as acquaintance." "Chen Lian," an artist Chen Lian immediately added, then slightly raised his chin to indicate that it was her turn. Jennifer's eyes widened a little, and she seemed surprised that Chen Lian didn't recognize her. She was Jennifer Connelly. But what was even more surprising was that the man opposite said that he was Chen Lian. Jennifer made her debut in a British TV series. She had also watched the news these days, but she didn't remember what Chen Lian looked like. After all, in the whole incident, Chen Lian only showed his face twice, and he was the one who picked out the general among the dwarfs in the group of protesters and pushed him to the stage to attract public opinion. Seeing Jennifer's surprised look, Chen Lian couldn't help but laugh. "I'm so embarrassed that I won't tell you that I know you." Jennifer saw Chen Lian smiling, and then she realized that this guy did it on purpose. She resisted the urge to kick him, snorted and turned her head away from him. Men are all the same. It's nice to say it's subtle. Chen Lian no longer took the initiative to talk to Jennifer, and just sat there drinking. Sometimes being too proactive is not a good thing. The two of them just sat there without saying anything for several minutes. Jennifer looked at the male companion who came with her in the crowd in the distance and was chatting with a woman, and she was smiling happily, and she felt even more unhappy. Her male companion is the object of her ambiguity. The two met this year. The ambiguity came quickly, but problems will inevitably arise when this ambiguity does not quickly turn into feelings. Chen Lian also followed Jennifer's gaze at this time, and he probably understood why Jennifer was in a bad mood tonight. Jennifer also noticed Chen Lian's gaze and looked away, not wanting to be laughed at by him. Jennifer was indeed a little upset. The wine in the glass was quickly finished. Just as she was about to get up to get a glass, there was an extra glass of wine in front of her. Chen Lian pushed the wine glass in front of her and said, "Drinking when you are in a bad mood is actually of no use." Jennifer glanced at him without saying anything. She just picked it up and drank it in one gulp. Chen Lian shrugged his shoulders and was about to leave. He would not comfort a lovelorn girl. But as soon as I got up, I heard Jennifer say, "Drink a drink with me." Chen Lian turned to look at her and said, "If you're doing it to piss off your boyfriend, I'm not interested." "He is not my boyfriend," Jennifer said this with a feeling of gritted teeth. She looked at Chen Lian waiting for her answer and said, "I just want to find someone to have a drink with me." "Don't you have a female companion too?" "If it's a drink as a friend, of course it's okay." After Chen Lian finished speaking, he looked at her, but still didn't sit down. Jennifer glanced at Chen Lian secretly and said, "My name is Jennifer Connelly. Are we considered friends now?" Chen Lian sat down with a smile and said, "Of course, nice to meet you, Miss Jennifer." "I'm not happy, you're not a gentleman at all." Jennifer complained in her heart, but now she really wanted to find someone to have a drink with, and Chen Lian's inactive behavior really made her less defensive. Chen Lian called the waiter to get 2 glasses of wine, handed her one, clinked the glasses and said, "This is our first drink as friends." Jennifer finished the drink in one gulp, looked at Chen Lian and said, "You can start the second cup." After Chen Lian finished his drink, he said, "If this is how we drink, we should go to a bar or open a separate bottle of wine." Jennifer stood up immediately and said, "It just so happens that I don't want to be here anymore, let's go." Now it was Chen Lian's turn to be speechless, and he just left like that. Looking at Chen Lian, who was sitting still, Jennifer felt a little angry again for some reason. Did this man think too little of her? Other men didn't know how proactive they were when they first met her. However, Chen Lian's behavior made Jennifer feel a little competitive. She looked at him and said, "You're not going to say Oriental subtlety again, are you?" Chen Lian smiled and shook his head and said, "Of course not. I was just thinking about where to go for a drink. I just came to New York and I'm not familiar with it yet." After saying that, Chen Lian stood up, walked to Jennifer, stretched out his hand and said, "Let's go, the rest of the time will be at your discretion." Finally, you acted like a gentleman. Jennifer suddenly felt much more comfortable. She thought you were so cold. Looking at Chen Lian's bent arms, Jennifer stepped forward without hesitation and asked, "I know a place, come with me." Chen Lian and Jennifer disappeared quietly at the reception. Matthew and Chuan Jiangguo, who wanted to chat with Chen Lian, searched around but couldn't find them. When Ji Fa later received a call from Chen Lian and found out that he and Jennifer had run away, she was furious. Originally, she had planned to spend a crazy night with Chen Lian. "Damn bitch," Ji Fa held the phone bitterly and couldn't help but muttered, "Then don't blame me for going to find Bo Cheng. The fragrant and soft baking is the best." Chen Lian on the other side was really confused when he saw Jennifer driving wildly. "Isn't she a pure and beautiful girl? Why are you so wild? Also, is this drunk driving?" Chen Lian looked at Jennifer and wanted to persuade her to drive slower, but he didn't dare to say anything, for fear that she would go against her will and directly kick the accelerator and die with him. As expected, foreign women do not have soft tempers. Chen Lian couldn't help but think of Sophie Marceau. The image on the screen is also that of a pure and beautiful girl, but in fact she is also extremely wild. Jennifer drove very fast and arrived at the destination in 10 minutes. When the car stopped, Chen Lian breathed a sigh of relief, but looked a little puzzled at the scenery outside. "Where is this? It doesn't look very wealthy, and there's no bar here." Without any explanation, Jennifer took Chen Lian out of the car and walked toward a small apartment building on the roadside. Chen Lian was following her, too lazy to ask so many questions about whether he could still sell himself. This is New York, not Myanmar. Soon Chen Lian followed Jennifer to an apartment. She skillfully took out the key under the carpet at the door, then opened the door and went in. Chen Lian also followed in, but he smelled a musty smell. It seemed that no one had lived in this apartment for a long time. Jennifer turned on the light and ran to open the window. The cold wind of the winter night blew in, but Jennifer did not feel cold. She fell straight on the sofa in the living room, looked at Chen Lian and said, "The wine is in the kitchen and in the refrigerator there's ice." Chen Lian said speechlessly, "I am a guest, right? Didn't you say you listened to me?" "Oh." Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 361. Chapter 349-348. Jennifer who was deceived. Yesterday's chapter was released, remember to read it? When a man loves a woman, can't keep his mind on nothing else. Romantic love songs were playing in the apartment room. Jennifer stood barefoot on the sofa, holding a wine bottle in her hand, swaying gently to the rhythm of the music. On the small sofa nearby, Chen Lian crossed his legs and looked at Jennifer as she lowered all her guard, with a hint of loneliness in her playfulness. It's just that the decadence of lovelornness in her body is amplified several times in such a romantic song. Chen Lian took a look at the apartment. It was not very large and the decoration was relatively old, but it could be seen that it was very warmly decorated. It should have been a warm family home. Maybe this was Jennifer's former home, where she always came to heal when she was lonely. The music in the record player slowly stopped at this time. Jennifer stood on the sofa and turned to look at Chen Lian, raising the bottle in his hand and saying, "Cheers. To tomorrow. To freedom." Chen Lian smiled slightly, raised the cup in his hand and said, "Respect freedom." Jennifer raised her head and drank the little wine left in the bottle. She held the bottle and pointed it at the ground with a silly smile, and then let go of her hand. Jennifer closed her eyes and opened her hands, waiting for the crisp impact, but no sound was heard for several seconds. The dizzy Jennifer opened her eyes and saw Chen Lian looking at her speechlessly, and the wine bottle was lying on Chen Lian's lap. Judging from the position, it seemed that it had hit a vital point. Jennifer immediately covered her mouth like a child who had done something wrong, and then couldn't help laughing when she saw the somewhat distorted expression on Chen Lian's face. Chen Lian silently picked up the bottle and threw it on the ground. As soon as he raised his head, he saw Jennifer jumping directly over from the other sofa. Chen Lian subconsciously stretched out his hand to protect her, worried that she would fall. Jennifer jumped over and stood up unsteadily, then sat directly on Chen Lian's body, holding Chen Lian's face with her hot little hands. Jennifer held Chen Lian's face and blinked at him, her beautiful pupils under the long eyelashes filled with light moisture. "You look so good looking." Before Chen Lian could reply, Jennifer's fingers gently touched the scar on his brow bone, as if she was worried about hurting Chen Lian. Chen Lian was a little overwhelmed by the sudden tenderness. He just looked at her steadily and saw his own shadow in her clear pupils. The two of them just looked at each other, and suddenly the song sounded again from the record player. The moment the music started playing, Jennifer held Chen Lian's face and kissed her. The moment their slightly warm lips touched each other, it was like an electric current passed through their hearts. "There is something in your eyes, don't hang your head in sorrow. And please don't cry, know how you feel inside, I've been there before." In the tender and touching love song of Guns N' Roses, Jennifer seems to have opened up all her defenses, forgotten all the unpleasantness, and just wants to be immersed in the entanglement of this moment. Jennifer kissed Chen Lian's cheek, her hot breath hitting his ear. Amidst the suppressed breathing, all her movements were no longer gentle. I don't know how much time passed. The cold winter night was almost over, and the sky outside was already slightly lit. In the spacious bedroom, the heating supply is sufficient, and the room is very warm. On the double bed, which is not too big or too small, Chen Lian and Jennifer are still sleeping, with the quilts hanging on the ground. "It looks like I didn't sleep well last night." I don't know how much time passed, but the ringtone of a mobile phone rang under the white pillow. Jennifer was awakened from a light sleep. She reached out and took out the phone from under the pillow and answered the call in a daze. "Who?" Jennifer said drowsily into the phone. When Jifa heard Jennifer's voice on the other end of the phone, she took a deep breath to suppress her emotions before saying, "Give the phone to Chen Lian." Jennifer, who was sleeping, was obviously down for a moment, and subconsciously asked, "Who is Chen Lian? Did you type the wrong number?" Even though Ji Farao had a good temper, he could no longer maintain his grace and said loudly, "Chen Lian is the man who slept with you last night. Be fresh and give him the phone." "The man I slept with last night?" The memory of last night suddenly appeared in Jennifer's mind, and she finally woke up and felt that she was still wrapped around a man's thigh. Damn it! Jennifer woke up instantly, looked at the phone in her hand, and heard the female voice on the other end of the phone. She subconsciously thought the other person was Chen Lian's girlfriend, and hung up the phone in a panic. "Hey, wake up!" Jennifer quickly pushed Chen Lian to wake up, feeling annoyed that she was too impulsive last night. Chen Lian opened his eyes in confusion and looked at Jennifer with a worried face. He stretched out his hand and hugged her into his arms, muttering, "Sleep a little longer." Sleep with you. Jennifer bit Chen Lian directly on the chest, and the pain instantly made Chen Lian wake up. What's wrong? Chen Lian looked at Jennifer and asked. Jennifer glared at Chen Lian angrily, complaining that he didn't tell her that he had a girlfriend. Men really didn't have any good things. Your girlfriend called you. Jennifer threw the phone on Chen Lian and said angrily, put on your clothes and leave here quickly, you scumbag. Chen Lian was stunned for a while before he realized what was going on. He looked at Jennifer's eyes and saw that she wanted a knife for him. Instead, he took the phone and called Jifa back. Jennifer grabbed the quilt and covered her chest. Seeing Chen Lian calling his girlfriend without any guilt in front of her, she really wanted to kick him off. Chen Lian didn't pay attention to Jennifer's expression. After the call was connected, he chatted with Jifa for a few words and then hung up. It's almost 8 o'clock now, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art will open at 9:30, and his art exhibition will also begin. Chen Lian turned his head and glanced at Jennifer, who was unhappy. You were not like this last night. Women can fall out really quickly. Chen Lian didn't have time to coax her, so he got out of bed and got dressed. My art exhibition will start at 9:30. Chen Lian quickly explained while getting dressed. The person who just called was my manager, not my girlfriend. Chen Lian quickly put on his clothes and said, I'll explain to you again tonight. I have to leave. It's too late. Jennifer looked at Chen Lian expressionlessly and didn't say a word to him. It wasn't until Chen Lian left in a hurry that she sat on the bed lonely with her legs in her arms and stared blankly at the scarf Chen Lian forgot to take away at the end of the bed. Do you want to give him a chance to explain tonight? Jennifer didn't know Chen Lian very well. She just read some news recently, but she didn't know about his glorious history. She was a little confused about whether to wait for him here at night. Chen Lian left the apartment, glanced at the door number outside the apartment, took it to heart, stopped a car and drove towards the Metropolitan Museum. The traffic in New York was really congested. It was nearly 9:20 before Chen Lian arrived at the museum. Jifa glared at Chen Lian and quickly pulled him to get ready. Bai Qing was very calm, probably because he was used to it. Soon the museum officially opened its doors, and Chen Lian's art exhibition in New York also officially began to be displayed. With previous experience in Paris and London, Chen Lian's team was already familiar with the processes and routines, and the art exhibition went very smoothly. There are a lot of people coming to the New York station, more than when Chen Lian was in Paris. This is the advantage of the touring exhibition. The reputation will gradually ferment. Coupled with the recent frequent publicity and exposure, many people are very interested in Chen Lian's art exhibition. Interested in. Chen Lian was also busy introducing these traditional crafts and his own creative concepts to the tourists. The entire team of more than a dozen people was busy, and even Zhang Guorong, who came to join in the fun and watch the exhibition, was attracted. I was busy all day, and it wasn't until about 5 o'clock in the evening that the whole day's work was completed. There were not many tourists visiting the exhibition hall at this time. Chen Lian looked at Jifa a little tiredly and said, Thank you for your hard work. Without you, this touring exhibition would really not be possible. Jifa also rubbed his temples and said, It's not as hard as you. I have to pick up girls and work at the same time. You must be exhausted. Chen Lian, where did you learn this yin and yang energy? The closing time soon came. Chen Lian and his team went back to the hotel for a brief meeting and then left in a hurry. I don't know if Jennifer will wait for me. I forgot to leave my contact information this morning. What a mistake. Chen Lian first bought a gift for Jennifer before setting off for Brooklyn. In her apartment in Brooklyn, Jennifer was sitting on the sofa wearing a long sweater and hugging her legs. She glanced at the clock on the wall from time to time. She also wore a scarf left by Chen Lian around her neck, like a kitten. Still waiting for the master to come home. It's just that Jennifer is very confused now and can't figure out whether she wants to give Chen Lian the opportunity to explain, but what does he want to explain? Do you want to be together because of last night's impulse? But Chen Lian didn't act like he liked himself at all. Jennifer stroked Chen Lian's scarf, and there was a faint fragrance on the tip of her nose. She was a little moved by the absurdity last night, and Chen Lian made her feel good. In this entanglement, time passed little by little, and after an unknown amount of time, there was a knock on the door. Jennifer subconsciously raised her head and looked at the door. Her exposed toes curled up slightly on the sofa, wondering whether to open the door. Chen Lian outside the door knocked a few more times, but didn't hear any movement inside. He thought Jennifer had left, so he didn't feel disappointed, but felt a little pity. Chen Lian sighed slightly, turned around and prepared to leave, but just after taking a few steps, he suddenly heard the sound of the door opening behind him. Jennifer still gave Chen Lian a chance, but she didn't know that this opportunity would make her regret it for a long time. Early the next morning, Chen Lian woke up first, looked at Jennifer who was still sleeping, put on her clothes and left lightly. I originally wanted to show Jennifer my cooking skills, but there were no ingredients in this apartment. It's Jennifer's secret base. If you don't live here, how can you get the ingredients? Chen Lian left the apartment and rushed towards the Metropolitan Museum. He almost didn't make it in time for the opening of the museum yesterday, but he couldn't be that late today. Jifa can really hit people, very fiercely. Jennifer woke up not long after Chen Lian left. She reached out and touched her side, but found nothing. Jennifer immediately opened her eyes and woke up. She stared at the empty pillow for a long time, then angrily grabbed the pillow and hit it several times. Damn Chen Lian! Jennifer was so angry that she thought she had met love. Unexpectedly, when she woke up, Chen Lian was gone. The words Chen Lian said last night were all lies to him. Everything about being in love and not having a girlfriend are all fake. Jennifer felt that she had been severely deceived by Chen Lian, and she was so angry that she took a pillow on the bed to vent her anger. Bang! The pillow exploded, and white feathers suddenly began to fall in the bedroom. Jennifer sat on the bed and let the feathers fall on herself. Her slender white hands touched the diamond necklace that Chen Lian gave her last night on her collarbone. She felt as miserable as the tragic heroine in the movie. Chen Lian, who came to the Metropolitan Museum early, didn't know that Jennifer would be so sad. He just felt sorry for his sister and wanted her to sleep a little longer. Chen Lian is in particularly good condition today. He is not tired after working all day. It may be that it is the second day of development and he is even more comfortable. At 5:30 in the afternoon, the day's exhibition came to an end. Chen Lian still had a brief meeting with his team as usual, and then ran away. Jifa looked at Chen Lian's leaving figure and couldn't help but said to Bai Qing, "You just don't care. If you can't control it, why should you?" Bai Qing said calmly, but actually he was a little angry in his heart. Jifa sighed and said, "This guy probably won't be honest until he is 60 years old." Bai Qing glanced at Jifa and felt that she underestimated Chen Lian. It was strange that he could not be honest until the moment he was pushed into the funeral parlor. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 362. Chapter 350-349. The Trap of Emotional Pull. As night fell, Jennifer sat blankly on the sofa in the dim apartment, looking at the door, waiting for the knock on the door. The sky outside gradually darkened, night fell completely, there was no light in the room, and the expectations in Jennifer's heart gradually disappeared. Looking at the white scarf placed beside the sofa, Jennifer grabbed it and threw it into the trash can. When she reached out to pull off the necklace around her neck, she hesitated. Jennifer's fingertips touched the necklace, and finally put down her hand without taking it off. Just think of it as a souvenir and remember that men can only talk sweet words and shouldn't expect any extravagant love. Chen Lian was holding a bouquet of flowers and had just walked up to the third floor of the apartment. He was thinking about what would be better to take Jennifer to eat later. He didn't have much time in New York, and this encounter was very brief. Maybe he didn't know when he would meet next time, so he had to cherish this time. Chen Lian came to the deepest part of the corridor, looked at the door and knocked on it. In the quiet apartment, Jennifer had just opened a bottle of wine and was getting ready to get drunk. She suddenly paused when she heard a knock on the door outside. Then she put down the red wine in her hand and immediately ran over to open the door. The moment the door opened, the light from the corridor shone in. Jennifer looked at the beautiful flowers in front of her and Chen Lian's beautiful face, feeling inexplicably aggrieved. Chen Lian looked at Jennifer's red eyes, raised his hand and touched her face and asked softly, "What's wrong?" Jennifer didn't speak, she just hugged Chen Lian and buried her head in his arms. Jennifer didn't know what was wrong with her. Maybe she felt aggrieved for waiting too long, maybe she felt that Chen Lian had deceived her, or maybe she really had some feelings for Chen Lian. She couldn't explain her emotions, so she just hugged Chen Lian and said nothing. In the warm apartment, the lights were bright. Jennifer sat on the sofa and leaned on Chen Lian's shoulder, eating pizza in small bites. Her eyes fell on the funny program on the TV, and she laughed out loud from time to time. It seemed that the person who had been wrong just now was not her, nor was the person who was so angry that she wanted to beat Chen Lian to death that morning. Chen Lian didn't like pizza very much, but he did as the Romans did and he was quite happy eating it. The programs on the TV were very interesting, and Chen Lian laughed out loud from time to time while watching them. This picture is like the warm and sweet daily life of two young lovers in love. It's just that there is a trace of loneliness hidden deep in Jennifer's smiling eyes. This kind of warmth is destined to be short-lived. Since it is short-lived, enjoy it well, and then forget it all after Chen Lian leaves one morning. Chen Lian always creates a romantic and affectionate atmosphere when he is with a woman, and strives to be the most perfect, both psychologically and physically. He has always understood one thing: a woman's love is not about loving you as a person, but the emotional value brought by loving you. A man who cannot provide emotions will not have love. Of course, what Chen Lian needs is not love, he just doesn't want this kind of thing to turn into a boring one-night stand. There are also different types of scumbags. Jennifer was very gentle this night, without the passion and wildness before, but Chen Lian had a different feeling. It was an emotional vortex that was so sticky that it could wrap itself around, making people unable to help but fall into this kind of immersion. Feeling. If you fall, congratulations, you will fall in love with a woman. In the early morning of the next day, Chen Lian woke up early again, looked at Jennifer who was still sleeping soundly, kissed her forehead gently, got up again and left quietly. After the sound of closing the door was heard outside, Jennifer, who was sleeping, opened her eyes, gently touched her forehead with her fingers, and finally sighed quietly. She didn't know whether Chen Lian had fallen or not, but she felt that she was about to fall. In the past few days that she had known Chen Lian, she had been being led up and down by her emotions. If this continued, she would really be unable to resist. Today is another day of waiting. Jennifer nestled under the quilt, feeling glad that Christmas was coming soon, otherwise she wouldn't have had so much time to rest. Chen Lian is busy in the exhibition hall at this time. A reporter came to interview today, and there are still interviews for several magazines to do. These media outlets were cautious enough and waited 2 days before coming, probably because they were worried that the same thing as in London would happen again. Chen Lian didn't care so much. He took the time to accept an interview at noon. After dealing with the interview with the art magazine, there were still interviews with 2 newspapers, but the interviews with newspaper reporters were much simpler. After all, there won't be much space in the newspaper, so you don't need to ask too many questions. After finishing these interviews, Chen Lian had time to eat, which meant that the museum closed at noon for more than an hour. Otherwise, Chen Lian might not have time to eat after the interview. Jifa and Bo Qing had already prepared lunch for Chen Lian. Seeing him wolfing down the food, they originally wanted to say something to him, but now they couldn't. Jifa drank coffee and looked at Chen Lian and said, "There will be another interview tomorrow." Yet Chen Lian lowered his head to eat and asked without raising his head, "What interview?" "Times." "What the hell? Why would Time magazine think of interviewing me? Isn't it the one on the cover?" "Yes, but it's just the Asian version." "Oh, I said so." Jifa put down the coffee cup and said, "Actually, the Asian version is a bit inappropriate. You can definitely board it now." "Forget it," Chen Lian interrupted Jifa directly, wiped his mouth and said, "As long as I hold the exhibition now, it's impossible. Let's talk about it later." Jifa thought for a moment and then nodded and said, "It's really impossible. Who asked you to carry out a propaganda mission?" Bai Qing sat next to him and remained silent. After a while, he said, "Actually, the United States has a high degree of acceptance of Chinese traditional culture. I think it is much better than Europe." Chen Lian said with a smile, "There are many Chinese in the United States, and Chinatown plays a big role here. Chinese people most like to come to the United States when they go abroad." Bai Qing nodded and said, "The United States is also more tolerant, but most people have prejudices and stereotypes about the Chinese. It seems that they only like traditional culture and find it novel, but they don't have so much respect for the Chinese. It's normal, that's why we want to promote traditional culture." Chen Lian took a sip of coffee to refresh himself, and then said, "If we want people to take us seriously, we need to catch up with our economic strength. Let's take our time." After Chen Lian finished eating, he looked at the time and saw that the museum was about to open, so he went directly to the exhibition hall to get busy. Tie-dye materials have been consumed a lot in the past 2 days. He has to check the inventory and find a way to order materials if there is not enough. There are also some old comrades who have not been feeling well recently due to the cold weather and food problems, so Chen Lian has to make arrangements. When taking a group of masters to hold exhibitions abroad, these things are unavoidable. After Chen Lian checked the tie-dye materials and counted what was needed, he asked Lu Tao and a young man from the department to go to Chinatown in New York. One is to buy ingredients, and the other is to order food and make some soup for the old chefs. After the launch in the afternoon, Chen Lian became busy again. There were really too many tourists visiting in the past 2 days, and he was extremely busy. However, the effect is also very good, and many people will be curious about these traditional crafts after visiting it. Some people want to spend money to buy Chen Lian's works, but if they can't buy them, Chen Lian recommends them to go to Chinatown to buy handicrafts. It is best to sign up for a Chinese class to learn more about Chinese culture. But most of them are just for fresh ideas. Chen Lian doesn't expect these people to really like Chinese traditional culture. It's enough to understand that China is a cultural power. Promoting culture cannot be done once or twice. It requires long-term promotion and publicity. At around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when Chen Lian was about to take a break, a man he hadn't seen for a long time appeared in front of him. Chen Lian looked at Zhou Ji, who suddenly appeared, and immediately went to give her a big hug. "Teacher Zhou, why are you here?" Chen Lian looked at Zhou Ji very excitedly. He hadn't seen Zhou Ji for a long time. Zhou Ji had almost never returned home in the past 2 years since she went abroad. Chen Lian didn't come to the United States very often, so he saw very few of them. Zhou Ji smiled and said, "If you don't come to see me, I can only see you and check whether you have practiced dancing well." "Of course I did. I later found a dance teacher, but he wasn't as good at teaching me as you." "Really? Who did you choose to be your teacher? Are the teachers serious?" Teacher Joe, please stop teasing me. Let's go out and chat. More than 20 minutes later, in a hotel room, Chen Lian and Joji hugged each other as soon as they walked in. They hadn't seen each other for a long time and had too much to say. Joji also asked Chen Lian to dance a bit to check whether he had practiced well recently. Chen Lian thought that he had studied well with many teachers recently, so he gave Joji a try. After an unknown amount of time, Joji looked at Chen Lian, who was sweating profusely and couldn't help but kicked him and said, "What the hell is this action? There is no beauty at all." Chen Lian said with a smile, "This action is very in-depth, and it is in line with our traditional culture. Men farm and women weave. Only men plow the fields, how can there be women weaving? Weaving requires hands and feet, Teacher Joe, now it's up to you, Lian Brand Loom. Trample you to death. Little bad guy." Joji stepped on the loom of the loom several times bitterly. When night gradually fell, Chen Lian suddenly remembered that Jennifer was still waiting for him in the apartment, but Joji came to see him today, so he definitely couldn't leave Joji to go on a date. Chen Lian had no choice but to take the phone and call Jennifer. In Jennifer's apartment, she looked at the dark night sky, feeling inexplicably anxious. She didn't know how many times she had looked at the clock on the wall. After waiting all day, it was now past 7 o'clock, and Chen Lian hadn't come yet, so she fell into emotional pull again. "If you don't come, you won't come." Jennifer sat on the sofa angrily, thinking that she would never see Chen Lian again and never come to this apartment again. The worst possible outcome is to find a secret base. Angrily, Jennifer had various thoughts running through her mind, but she couldn't help but look at the door in anticipation of the knock on the door. Soon a bell rang in the quiet apartment, but it wasn't a knock on the door, it was the sound of a mobile phone. Jennifer looked at the phone number that was saved yesterday on her phone and immediately picked up the call. "Hey, why aren't you here yet? Aren't you coming tonight? Forget it if you don't come. Then will you come tomorrow?" Jennifer hung up the phone 2 minutes later and couldn't help but sigh, as if she already regretted letting Chen Lian in that day. Joji left the next morning. She still had classes at a dance school in the United States. This time she came over on the weekend, and now she had to rush back to take classes. After Chen Lian saw Joji off, he still felt a little bit reluctant, but after returning to the exhibition hall and getting busy, this emotion quickly disappeared. It is already the 4th day of the exhibition. The New York stop is about to end. The next stop is Los Angeles. After Los Angeles, we will go to Canada. After Canada, there are several countries in Asia. However, Chen Lian felt that there was no need to go to Asia to hold exhibitions. The financial crisis had almost squeezed them dry. Who would still be in the mood to spend money to see the exhibition? You can barely eat, but you still appreciate art? However, there is no need to change the plan that was made at the beginning. Let's just give some spiritual comfort and sublimation to the poor people who are bankrupt. At around 7 o'clock in the evening, Chen Lian appeared at the door of Jennifer's apartment. This time, Jennifer opened the door before he knocked on the door. Chen Lian was stunned for a moment, wondering if she had been watching behind the door, so she opened the door so quickly. Chen Lian felt a little moved. He handed her the flowers in his hand, hugged her gently and said, "I've been waiting for a long time. I'm sorry that I'm late. There was an interview that delayed my time." "It's okay, the flowers are very fragrant and beautiful," Jennifer said with a bright smile, as if she didn't care at all that Chen Lian was late. In the living room of the apartment, Jennifer arranged the flowers, turned to look at Chen Lian and asked, "Which media will you be interviewed by?" "Some media interviews and reports will be different, deliberately creating public opinion." After hanging up his coat, Chen Lian said, "Times magazine shouldn't write randomly." "Time magazine," Jennifer's eyes lit up and she asked excitedly, "Is it a cover interview?" "Well, it's just the Asian version," Chen Lian explained. Jennifer hugged Chen Lian's arm and said, "That's pretty cool. This is Time magazine." Chen Lian smiled, but he didn't think it was very impressive. Gong Li was also featured in Time magazine last year, and the eldest sister was also featured, so he couldn't be left behind. But for Jennifer, Time magazine is indeed quite powerful. Although she is a popular female star in Hollywood, she is still far behind Time magazine. During dinner, Chen Lian looked at Jennifer and asked, "I'm going to Los Angeles next week. Do you want to go with me?" Jennifer's eyes flashed with joy, but she still said hesitantly, "I don't want to go with you." "Why?" "I'm afraid of falling in love with you." When a person says this sentence, there is a high probability that he has fallen in love without knowing it. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 363. Chapter 351-350. The Restless Chen Lian. There was only the last day left for the exhibition in New York, and on this day Chen Lian met Mr. Wang. The iconic blonde hair is very eye-catching, and Chen Lian noticed it when he appeared in the exhibition hall. Chen Lian and Dong Wang had a good chat at the last cocktail party. Although they didn't hit it off, they still had similar interests. Knowing that Wang came here today was because he knew that Chen Lian's exhibition in New York was coming to an end, so he came here specifically to support it. Dong Wang didn't know much about art, and it was traditional Chinese art. After saying a few nice words, he started chatting with Chen Lian about topics he hadn't finished talking about last time. Knowing that Wang wants to become a congressman and run for the position of leader of the United States in the future, he knows very well what is needed behind this mechanism. The most important thing is that someone votes, but how to get more people to support him. Understand Wang obviously has his own ideas and understanding. The traditional way is not suitable for him, so he becomes an actor and makes movies and TV series. On the one hand, it is for his own hobbies, and on the other hand, he is famous. Understand Wang is also a best-selling author, but it is unknown whether he wrote it himself. Chen Lian's experience inspired Wang a lot. He was very curious and wanted to understand how Chen Lian became a world-famous artist in a short period of time. Art is also promoted and packaged by capital. Understand the king himself is the capital, but he is obviously not proficient in how to package it, otherwise he would not have repeatedly jumped among several defactions, and failed several times. Chen Lian is not an expert in this field, but Jifa and Cheng Shifen are both masters of marketing packaging. Although the marketing targets are different, many of the theories are the same. Chen Lian and Jifa chatted with Wang Miao about this matter for a long time. By the end of the conversation, Wang Miao was very excited and even wanted to ask Jifa to be his staff. But Jifa is obviously not interested in this. There are many ways to make money, so there is no need to make yourself so tired. Politics is the most energy-consuming thing in the world. Knowing the king was very sorry, he looked at Jifa and said, "Although you don't want to, we are still friends. I would like to invite you to my home for the Christmas dinner." Chen Lian shook his head and said, "I'm sorry, we have to go to Los Angeles, so we may not be able to participate." "That's such a pity. I also want to introduce my family to you," Wang Dong said regretfully, then remembered the unfinished topic last time and asked, "Are you interested in the Miss Universe project I mentioned last time? Copyright and the hosting rights don't cost much." Chen Lian and Jifa looked at each other, then nodded slightly. After receiving the signal, Jifa said with a smile, "Of course I'm interested. We can discuss this issue in detail." As Jifa spoke, she started talking to Dong Wang about the copyright and hosting rights of Miss Universe China. Wang Dong had some say in the equity, but if he really wanted to negotiate, he would have to discuss it with other shareholders. But today Wang understands the matter for the second time, which means he has great hope, or he has already mentioned it with other shareholders. Seeing that they were talking so professionally, Chen Lian stopped participating. The exhibition hall was still busy. At the closing of the last day, there were a lot of people visiting, many more than in the previous days. Chen Lian was extremely busy. It was only after he finished his work that he realized that Wang had left. Chen Lian walked to Jifa out of curiosity and asked, "How was the chat? Can you do it?" Of course, Miss Universe is still very influential, and it is a good profit-making project. Ji Faxiao looked at Chen Lian and said, "The most important thing is that it suits you very well, doesn't it? Our great artist." Chen Lian knew that Ji Fa would think this way, so he couldn't help but rolled his eyes and said, "I want to use the influence of Miss Universe to develop my career." "Where are you thinking about it?" Jifa agrees with what Chen Lian said, "But that doesn't mean that you can't do other things while pursuing your career. Men, there are some people who don't like Miss Universe." Jifa patted Chen Lian on the shoulder and said, "No matter, the copyright fee is very expensive, it will also cost a lot of money to hold it. You have no experience in holding such an event, so you need to be well prepared." Chen Lian nodded and said to Jifa, "I am also planning to make a magazine. China's current fashion magazine market is completely blank. Combining the two will definitely develop quickly. In the future, it can be promoted through magazines and the Miss Universe contest. Our own brand." Hearing what Chen Lian said, Jifa also became serious. He frowned and thought for a while and said, "It is indeed a good idea to combine tradition and fashion. These traditional arts are very unique, but I want to go global. It's difficult, the mainstream voice of fashion is still in Europe. Take your time and don't rush. If you can capture the East Asian market, it will be considered a success." Chen Lian did not intend to become a fat man in one bite. Those old luxury products in Europe were also made step by step. Chen Lian moved his body and looked at Jifa and asked, "Are you leaving for Los Angeles tomorrow?" "Yes, we have to rush there as soon as possible and finish the exhibition before Christmas Eve." Jifa also felt that time was tight, but the Los Angeles side had already contacted them, so they didn't need to spend so much time preparing. Chen Lian nodded and said, "No problem, but I have to play for a day to get over." Jifa frowned and asked, "What do you want to do?" "Accompany Jennifer." Yes and no, but Chen Lian didn't want to explain to Jifa, otherwise she would have dragged him to Los Angeles directly. That night, Chen Lian ended up with Jennifer tenderly in her apartment and ran out alone while she was sleeping. When you come to New York, it feels like your trip is in vain if you don't leave something behind. The graffiti culture in New York is so popular, so you have to leave behind the works of Anonymous no matter what. This time the graffiti has no offensive tendency, it is just a simple creation, and the theme is the same as Chen Lian's usual anti-war. After a busy night, Chen Lian returned to Jennifer's apartment to catch up on his sleep. When Chen Lian got up the next morning, he saw Jennifer holding her chin with her hands and looking at him. He didn't know how long he had been awake and looking at him like this. The softness in Chen Lian's heart was touched. He gently rubbed her hair and gave her a good morning kiss before saying, "Have you been awake for a long time?" Jennifer shook her head and nodded, put her face on Chen Lian's chest and listened to his heartbeat and said, "When will we meet next time?" "I think it will be soon. If I can, I want to stay in this moment forever," Chen Lian said with a smile. Jennifer bit her lip and looked up at Chen Lian and asked, "Have you said this to many people and given many such necklaces?" Jennifer pinched the diamond necklace around her neck, trying to make sure she was the special one. "Of course not, you are unique." Chen Lian's fingers were also caressing the necklace around Jennifer's neck, but his eyes fell on her wealthy figure. Jennifer's figure is destined to be unique among Chen Lian's many good sisters. Dabai also has a good figure, but he is not as tall as Jennifer. The height difference means that Jennifer is destined to be richer. Jennifer noticed Chen Lian's gaze and bit his finger. Then he slowly slid down, and finally shrank into the quilt and crossed his arms with his chest. Chen Lian feels that this kind of good morning is the best. Chen Lian and Jennifer didn't go out the whole day. When they were hungry, they ordered takeout. Although the delivery was very slow, they didn't have to go out, so they had more time to do more things. At night, the whole apartment was filled with the smell of decadence after the two exercised. Late at night, Jennifer fell asleep. Although Chen Lian had consumed all his energy throughout the day, he still went out to create. Drawing is really addictive, especially when you are masked and no one knows who you are. You can draw as you please. The things Chen Lian painted were all the wars that these people had fought, except that the things dropped from the plane were not bombs but lollipops. The people under the plane waiting to be bombed were not fearful, but innocent children watching with expectation, holding the giant lollipop that is about to fall. What the soldiers fired from their guns were not bullets, but cute toy bears flying towards those cute children with open arms. Chen Lian drew a lot of graffiti like this, and he also took the initiative to leave the name anonymous. The name given by the media is not bad, and Chen Lian likes it very much. After 2 consecutive days of creation, Chen Lian felt exhausted and just wanted to go back and go to bed early. Jifa and the others were still waiting for him in Los Angeles. After Chen Lian returned to the apartment, he hugged the fragrant and soft Jennifer and fell asleep. When he woke up early the next morning, Jennifer was gone. Chen Lian only saw a note in the apartment. Although he felt that such a farewell was not very good, he respected Jennifer's behavior and simply packed up and flew to Los Angeles. The scenery in Los Angeles is very good. Chen Lian even went to Hollywood specifically, but he went alone. Jifa was busy setting up the exhibition, and Bo Qing was not interested in Hollywood. As for Leslie Chung, he had already returned to Hong Kong. Christmas was coming and he wanted to go back to spend time with Mr. Tang. Why would he stay here and work as a coolie for Chen Lian? Chen Lian took his camera to many places in Hollywood and took photos to commemorate it. But Los Angeles was not that lively at this time. Just like there were no production crews in Hongdaean during the Spring Festival, there were not many production crews in Los Angeles at this time. Chen Lian was quite disappointed with this. He even asked someone to register with the Actors Guild, wondering if he could play a supporting role. It seems that I can only try it again next time. Chen Lian kept this small regret in his heart, and then ran to see the big ship alone. Although the story of the movie is very simple, the stunts are still very powerful. Chen Lian does not reject commercial movies, but no one asked him to act in them. Maybe it's also because Chen Lian picks the script and is an artist, so ordinary commercial films in China really won't cast him. If it's a literary film, he'll probably be the first thing that comes to mind. I have to say that this also limits Chen Lian's acting options. It's still a pity. Chen Lian is wondering whether he should invest in a commercial film and have fun himself. After watching Big Boat coming out of the cinema, Chen Lian ran to the Los Angeles Museum of Modern Art. The art exhibition at this stop is this museum. With Chen Lian's current reputation in the art world, almost no museum will refuse him to hold an exhibition. Except Daying. Without socializing and beautiful encounters, Chen Lian devoted himself to work this time and felt much more relaxed than the previous 2 times. Maybe it's because I don't have to expend energy, so I feel energetic. It's just that after 2 days of leisure, Chen Lian couldn't stand it any longer. He sneaked out in the middle of the night to graffiti. This thing is so addictive, just like being a thief. This time, Chen Lian's graffiti was not anti-war, but just drawing those classic Hollywood IPs. For example, Batman is chasing criminals on a bicycle, Superman is stuck in the bathroom while changing costumes, and Spider-Man is fined for working at heights. Chen Lian was very happy with painting, and he would go out to paint basically every night. Jifa didn't notice it at first. It wasn't until the New York Times reported that Anonymous suddenly appeared on the streets of New York that he learned that Chen Lian was doing graffiti again. However, Anonymous is indeed famous now, and some people are now offering to buy the graffiti in London. The profit-seeking nature of capital has made them discover the huge commercial value in it. However, Ji-fa could only express envy, because Chen Lian could not stand up and admit that he was anonymous. That night, Chen Lian slipped out of the room and turned around to see Ji-fa waiting for him in the corridor. Chen Lian concealed it awkwardly. "I was about to go find you." Ji-fa said with a half-smile, "Really? Then come with me, I will punish you tonight." "I've come to find you, why do you still punish me? Did you know that Anonymous showed up in New York? Someone must be impersonating me." Chen Lian's sophistry had no effect, but he was captured by Ji-fa and gave him a hard education, making him understand that French roses are not only beautiful but can also kill people. Ji-fa's punishment was too harsh, causing Chen Lian to feel depressed all day long the next day. "Can I not go to the exhibition hall today?" Chen Lian yawned and asked Ji-fa for leave. "No. There was no rest at night and another busy day during the day. Chen Lian simply stopped thinking about going out to paint that night. In the hotel room, Bai Qing looked at Chen Lian, who kept yawning, with a hint of suspicion in his eyes. He grabbed him and asked, "What have you been doing these past 2 days? Have you had enough sleep?" Chen Lian's yawning movement froze, and then he said, "I ran out to paint." "No wonder," Bai Qing muttered and suddenly realized, looked at Chen Lian and shouted, "Then why don't you take me with you?" "No, you must take me with you tonight." "I won't go tonight, I want to sleep." Chen Lian immediately shook his head and refused. "No." Bai Qing grabbed Chen Lian and walked out without giving Chen Lian a chance to refuse. "Can you not go? If Ji-fa finds out, she will punish me." "Don't worry, as long as I'm here. I'll make it up to you later. It's even scarier, okay? I really want to sleep." There is a feedback activity in the book review area, and you can get a small amount of money by participating in the lottery.